I squared off with Harvey Levin of TMZ last week. I was on to talk about my being appointed to this commission to study the social status of black men and boys. And then Harvey and his co-star diverted the conversation into Donald Trump's denial of the existence of systemic racism. And things went south from then on. We'll talk about that later on. I want to talk to you about something that happened to me while I was in the airport, and I think it's indicative of what's going on in the country on this day before the election. Actually, people have already voted. Tomorrow is the final day, supposedly voting in ballots. The ballots are supposed to be there by tomorrow, although there is a Supreme Court case, a Pennsylvania case that went all the way up to the highest court in Pennsylvania, and because of the vote that Justin Roberts took with the liberals, the Pennsylvania order is going to stay. And essentially it says, okay, even if a ballot comes in within 3 days after the election, and even if that ballot signature doesn't match the signatures we have on file, and even if it looks ineligible, we're still going to count it. And those who don't think it's eligible, the burden is going to be on them to show that that vote is not a good vote. No possibility for fraud there, is there? So I'm walking through the Phoenix airport, called the Sky Airport, very nice airport, and it's really early, so there's virtually nobody there. And a young man is coming towards me. Now, both of us have masks on. And the young man has long hair. He's like around 6'1", 6'2", kind of thin. And he has on a black T-shirt with white lettering that reads, "Protect Black Women." Now, as somebody who travels a lot in airports, I see a lot of T-shirts with a lot of messages. But this one, maybe it was because it was so early. Maybe it was because I hadn't eaten. Maybe because I was there about 2 hours ahead. I had some time. Maybe it was because he and I were the only ones in this little corridor. But I went up to him, and I said, "Excuse me, may I ask you a question? In what way do we need to protect black women? In what way are not black women protected?" That's what I said. He said, "Well, in every way." I said, "In every way?" He said, "Yes, in every way, black women are not protected." I said, "Can you just give me one example?" He said, "Well, everybody knows that." I said, just humor me. Give me one example. And he said, "Well, black women are not paid the same." I said, "You believe black women are not paid the same as white women for the same work?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Then why does any white woman have a job?" He said, "Excuse me?" I said, "I'm an employer, and I can hire black women and replace the white women and get the same work done and pay these black women less money. Why wouldn't I fire all the white women and hire only black women?" He said, "Well, that would be illegal." I said, "It's also illegal to pay somebody less for the same work as somebody else. And that's been illegal since the 60s. John F. Kennedy signed that law." He went, "Well." And I said, if you're comparing apples to apples, someone who graduated, for example, from the same university, compare that to another woman who graduated from the same university, or a man who graduated from that same university, and compare that person to a woman, and they work the same amount of time, and they haven't taken out any time from work, the Department of Labor has says their pays are identical. I said, "You're just wrong." And he said, "Well, I don't want to get into a discussion right now." And I said, "I suggest perhaps, if you don't want to get into a discussion, maybe you choose a different T-shirt next time." I said, "You are wrong," as he's walking away. "And not only are you wrong, it is a lie, and it's making things worse. Not better, worse." And by the way, as he's walking away, he says, "And by the way, I'm black." I mean, the guy looked about as black as Mitt Romney. And I said, "It doesn't matter what race you are. You're wrong, and you're making things worse." What is this? What is this? This is what the Democrats have done. This is what the media has done. This is what the access of indoctrination has done. Convinced young people like this guy, and he must have been about 20, 25 years old. I don't think any older than that. Systemic racism, structural racism. And therefore, in come the Democrats to level the playing field. For a long time, a black college-educated couple where both work has out-earned a white college-educated couple where both work. Did you know that? That's been true for decades. I told the young man what you said is simply false. And it is damaging the country. You're making things worse. Same thing with Harvey Levin. Harvey Levin is the founder and owner of TMZ, phenomenally successful. He's extremely successful and extremely bright. Graduated from University of Chicago, one of the most competitive law schools. Wonderful law school. And he told me that Donald Trump was a bad guy for denying, quote, systemic racism, close quote. I said, you mean against the police? Yeah. Against the cops? Yeah. Against blacks? Yeah. By cops? Yeah. Where's your evidence? Well, I mean, look at George Floyd. Look at Jacob Blake. I said, you've given me stories. There are more unarmed whites killed by the police every year than unarmed blacks. Does TMZ cover that? Can you name one? I told him about the study done by the black Harvard professor. I told him about studies done by professors at Washington State. They've done 3 of them over a series of years. Each one, same result. Cops more hesitant to pull the trigger against a black suspect than a white suspect. Public-private partnership. It's been done since the 90s. 60,000 Americans ask every 3 years, did you have an encounter with the cops in the last year? The answer is yes. A whole bunch of questions follow. No pattern of systemic racism. I told Harvey he ought to be ashamed of himself for advancing a narrative that is dangerous. Cops pull back. Bad guys know it. They hurt the very people that the Black Lives Matter and the woke sides claims they care about. And young black men, having been socialized into believing that if they're stopped by a cop, the cop is going to do them harm, why in the world should they comply? As a result, you have a whole lot more people not complying, therefore making a matter escalate into something far more serious, sometimes even more fatal than would otherwise be the case, but for this stupid indoctrination because of people like Harvey Levin and TMZ who think that they're woke but are making things worse. Aside from that, I'm in a pretty good mood. 888-971-SAGE. Let's talk about the election. Race is tightening. I am Larry Elder. Go Trump.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. The 2020 election is now just days away. Here's my short case for backing the Trump-Pence ticket and voting for Republican senators and representatives in your state. On the coronavirus pandemic, Trump has done as well as any president could have done, and certainly better than Joe Biden. You're safer and more secure because of the Trump military buildup. The president has made the necessary pivot with China, and he's brokered the first major peace deal in the Middle East in 25 years. On the economy, Trump and the GOP succeeded in bringing unemployment to all-time lows early this year. Now, even amidst the pandemic, the economy is bouncing back. Your First and Second Amendment freedoms are much stronger as well because Trump has bolstered the Supreme Court and federal courts with strong judges who honored the Constitution. Whatever you think of Trump personally, there's no question. His policies have been good for the country. Join me in voting for a second Trump term. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine Graduate School of Public Policy, impacting policy decisions today, preparing public leaders for tomorrow. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So he's raising the question of how is it possible that this individual, Joe Biden, couldn't be blackmailed by the Chinese given everything that his son and the rest of the Biden clan were doing. And let me break some news here as well. I got a phone call yesterday morning from a 22-year veteran of the U.S. Navy who was asked to provide a reference for Hunter Biden when he was permitted to have a direct commission to the U.S. Navy Reserves. This individual refused, but he found out that this individual, Hunter Biden, when he was given a direct commission into a slot that he had zero qualifications for as a public affairs officer, was not only given an age waiver, Steve. When he filled out his SF-86 clearance form that you have done, I have done many times, Hunter Biden admitted to being a drug user in the 7 years prior to filling out the SF-86 to become a naval officer. Steve Bannon, Hunter Biden was given a waiver for drug use when he was direct commissioned into the U.S. Navy. Talk to us about the national security compromises of both Hunter Biden and his father, given everything we all know now in the open source domain.
So listen, this story has never been about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is just an instrument to get to the father. If you look at the way that the syndicate works and what their apparatus, everything is about monetizing access to Joe Biden. So that's the railhead. The railhead of all value creation is Joe Biden either being head of the the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, him being Vice President of the United States, or now him running for President of the United States and having obviously very good polls, right? So the whole thing is to monetize Biden's access to Biden.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me. President Trump is referring to the widely shared clip of Joe Biden threatening to fire a prosecutor because they were looking into his son's business dealings. Play cut 25.
I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
And throughout the entire impeachment investigation process, Americans found that Hunter Biden was working for the Burisma, Ukrainian energy company Burisma for $83,000 a month. Now, Americans know that he had no experience in that sector at all whatsoever. So that was where we stopped the story. But Senator Ron Johnson and Chuck Grassley last month released a Senate report investigating the money flows from foreign governments to Hunter Biden. So here's where Hunter Biden makes his money, and with it, Joe Biden. A $3.5 million wire.
Hi, Larry. This is Sherry from Ohio. I'm in my truck, and I'm following about 500 Trump voters. We have a massive rally here. We're going all through Medina and Brunswick. We're having a great time. He's going to be our next president for another 4 years. Thank you, Larry. Have a good one.
Hi, Larry. Everybody should listen to you. Turn off the TV. Get out the Bible, look up the verse, ye of little faith, which shows up about 4 times. We're all acting like we're in the boat on the sea, and it's going to sink. And Jesus says he's got this, and Donald Trump will be reelected as the President of the United States.
Larry, Richard, Scottsdale. Great to see you at the showing the other night here in Phoenix. I enjoy that movie so much. Every time I see it, something different jumps out at me that I missed the first or the prior times I saw it. Anyway, just wanted to tell you that the Biden crime family, I think Joe should be in the big house, not the White House. Anyway, bud, talk to you soon. Hope to see you soon again. Thank you.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Please call me about your thoughts about tomorrow. Next hour, we're going to be speaking with Congressman Mike Garcia, who won the special election when Katie Hill out here in California resigned, California's 25th. And he's now running for a fresh 2. We're going to be talking to him next hour. And in the third hour, Project Veritas is suing the New York Times for defamation. The New York Times is claiming that the Project Veritas videos have been edited, have been deceptive. They have not been deceptive, says James O'Keefe, and he's now suing the Gray Lady. We'll be talking about that in just the third hour of the show, so stick around for that. 888-971-SAGE. I want to thank everybody who made generous gifts to my campaign for Alliance Defending Freedom, this awesome nonprofit legal organization that defends our rights, especially the religious freedom of Americans just like you and your family. You did not let me down. This year was no exception. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. And I ask our team to leave the ADF banner up at LarryElder.com. If you didn't have a chance to make a gift, you still can. Just click on the ADF banner at the very top of my homepage, LarryElder.com. Make a donation in any amount that you can. Again, thank you for your generous support this year for our friends at Alliance Defending Freedom. One more interesting encounter in the airport I had the other day. So there is a man sitting in an area where I'm having some breakfast. And he appears to be about my age, white, and he and I start talking. It's pretty clear he's not a hard left guy. Certain kinds of things people say, and so little by little it occurred to me he probably was a Trump supporter, and I asked him. He said he was. And he told me that he was a pastor, and that he had a son who was in special ops. And he said he couldn't tell me too much about what his son did, but it's highly, highly, highly selective. And I'm assuming something like a Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6, something like on that order. As he and I are speaking, another young man sits down, and both of us lower our voice because we don't know whether or not this third guy is going to be down with what we're talking about. We don't want to offend anybody. So both of us lower our voice, and the young man, hearing us, then said something about the election. And he then indicated that he was not going to vote for Donald Trump after hearing that both of us were Trump supporters. And he said it kind of in a way that was non-threatening. So we all had a civil conversation. And I asked him to give me the principal reason why he did not want to support Donald Trump. And he said he was a Navy vet, 27 years old. Most military people support Trump. And he said the thing that tore me is when he referred to Elizabeth Warren as Pocahontas. And I said, of all the reasons, this is your reason? He said, well, I thought it was so incredibly disrespectful. I said to myself, he doesn't want to know what I've called her on my radio show. And I said, he insults a lot of people. And then I gave him the golf analogy that I often give. I was on watching television, watching two professional golfers asked by a host, how can you tell if a golfer is a good golfer? I've told you this before. And golfer A went through a very lengthy, beautiful, detailed, mechanical explanation about what makes a good golfer based on his placement of feet, based on how he puts his hip into the swing, how he locks his left arm, assuming he's right-handed, how he keeps his eye on the ball. All these kinds of things. It was wonderful. And the other golfer folded his hands and then said very quietly, I look to see where the ball lands. And for some reason, that seemed to click with the young man. And then the other one, who said he had a son who's in special ops, he said this, I can't tell you too much, but I have a son who's in special ops. And all I know is because of Donald Trump, I feel my son is far, far more safe. He said, my son tells me, and the other special ops people I've spoken to all tell me the same thing. Our enemies and would-be enemies are blank scared of Donald Trump. And I said, I've never heard the term blank scared. I've heard the term blankless, but I've never heard the term blank scared. And the word blank starts with S. And the man, by the way, is from Australia. I've got a feeling it's an Australian expression. He's American, but he's from Australia. And he said, our enemies are blank scared of Donald Trump. And I said, why? And he said, they have no idea what he's going to do. They feel he's fearless, that if he feels wronged, he will take action. They are blank scared of Donald Trump. And he also said, have you noticed we have not been whacked again under Donald Trump? I said, well, I just assumed it was because we were keeping him on the offense and that kind of thing. He said, oh, that certainly is true. But the added dimension is that they are scared, they are blank scared of Donald Trump. He moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem when experts were telling him it was going to ignite a round of violence in the Middle East. There was some violence, but there wasn't very much compared to what people were predicting. They are blank scared of him. Remember, John Kerry gave a speech in 2016 saying there would never be any kind of peace deal with Arab states without any involvement of the Palestinians. I've just spoken to the Palestinians, said John Kerry, and they've all assured me no Arab nation is going to do any deal unless it involves the Palestinians. What happened? Deal with Israel and UAE. Deal with Israel and Bahrain. Deal with Israel and Sudan. And that one might even be the most significant because Israel was at war with Sudan. And now this is not only a deal normalizing relations, it's really a peace deal. Any love for that on CNN? Any love for that on MSNBC? Of course not. Because they are all in on protecting this man, which is why they smother the bombshell story of Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden's business associate turning against Hunter Biden, saying, I haven't done anything wrong. I'll be damned if my family is going to be linked to allegations that we were involved in sort of foreign influence peddling. I'll be damned. And he said, I went forward when the Biden family publicly said that Joe had nothing to do with me, had not met anybody. This was all Russian disinformation. I'm not going to have my family involved in accusations that we are being traitorous to the to America when I serve my country. I serve my country in the military. I'm not going to have my reputation impugned. And what happens? Twitter blocks New York Post's own Twitter account so they couldn't even repost their own story. This is what we're up against. 888-971-SAGE. I am Larry Elder. Do not leave town.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The president brought up the laptop and China. He made a couple of clear points. The moderator, who was generally very good, stepped on his punchlines, she muddied up those moments. And that to me was a pity.
Yes, and I completely agree with you that, Kristen Welker, who was the moderator, did a much better job in terms of allowing the discourse back and forth. I thought she was a lot more fair than Chris Wallace. Absolutely. But the one complaint that I had with her is the exact same thing that you pointed out, Eric, was that she did not want this laptop story to be discussed back and forth. And so every time that the president made a very clear point and was asking Joe Biden a question, she would say, oh, that's on topic. I want to stay on the race issue, or I want to stay on climate change, or, we're not talking about that right now. And she would cut in and interrupt. And I think there was some statistic where she interrupted the president about 41 times and Joe Biden only 8 times. And granted, she allowed the back and forth, the 2-minute openings where their mics were muted. That was fine. But it was very clear that she did not want any discourse about this laptop, which is so unfortunate because the American people need to understand what's going on here. I thought the president explained it incredibly well. And to have a moderator interject themselves like that is activism, and it's absolutely inappropriate. And that's something that just clearly evidences that the mainstream media has a biased agenda and that they are trying to protect Joe Biden from this story. So you have to ask yourself, why?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once has an old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Answer, practice.
Yes, I've used a similar example. I like rock and roll. And the guitarist from Led Zeppelin, a guy by the name of Jimmy Page, he was a studio musician for years, and he just played one exact note for note what he was told to play, and he played all the time in that mode. And by the time he got into the rock and roll band Led Zeppelin, he had complete freedom to make that guitar sound how he wanted it to sound because he had the discipline.
Exactly.
Hi, Larry. It's Bill from Cleveland. You know, if I lived in a very violent neighborhood, in a dangerous neighborhood, the last thing I'd want is a bunch of people, strangers, flooding in and no cops. So, I mean, I would not want that. Anyways, on election night, if Trump starts looking up, if he starts looking good, I think, craziness is going to break loose. But the problem is there going to be a pushback that night. And I think there will be a big pushback because these guys have been getting off the hook all year. And they're not expecting that, because they get thrown out of jail the next day. So, you might see the pushback then. Anyways, that's just my thoughts. I will see you later. Love you, bro.
This, by the way, is Lil Wayne, who's now supporting Donald Trump for re-election. It's called A Milli. I think that's short for a million. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Tony from Victorville, California, says he disagrees with me about systemic racism. Tony, please do not go away. First, we're going to go to President Donald Trump at a rally in Traverse City, Michigan.
Knock the hell out of you, roam your streets, set your stores on fire. No problem. That's called protesting. We must protect our protesters. But you're not allowed to go to church. You're not allowed to have dinner, right? The only one allowed to have dinner in this state is the husband of your governor. He's the only one that's got special privileges. That was not a good day when he got caught boating or whatever the hell it was. Who are you? I'm the husband of the governor. The police didn't go for that one too well, did they? No, that wasn't a great day. No, you got to open up your state, governor. Open it up, governor. Let the kids go back to school. Let the kids go back to school. It's like Barron Trump, right? They said, First Lady had it, I had it. They said, sir, you tested positive. First Lady didn't come to see us a little while later. They said, sir, Barron, White House doctor, great doctor, Sean. Sir, Barron just tested positive. I said, tested positive for what? For corona. It sounds like, I like the China virus. Or I like the plague from China. But a lot of people use it it sounds like an island in Italy. I said, it's not corona, but just tested positive for corona. I said, well, I don't like that. That's not good. Barron, he's strong. He's very tall. He's only 14 years old. He's very tall, I can tell. Hi, Barron. And he's a good boy, but he just tested positive. And I said, wow. Then about 12 minutes later, I see the doctor. Doctor, how's Barron doing? Oh, it's okay. He's fine now. It took him about 12 seconds to get rid of it. Because they're young and they have a strong immune system. No, he got better so fast. And you know what I say? Let the kids go to school. And you're not going to hear that from the other side. They want to lock it up. The Biden lockdown will mean no school, no graduations, no weddings, no Thanksgivings, no Easter, no Christmas, no 4th of July, no future for the youth. Other than that, it's going to be a great life. No, you got to let the kids go to school. Get going. Open up your state. It's time. And, we got to take care of our seniors. We have to take care of people. We understand it. We have to do things. But let the kids go back. This is a lockdown. This is a shutdown. Of course, probably on a date like November 4th, they'll announce, well, we're going to decide to open up, right? Did you see the one head of the union said, yeah, we want the teachers to go back to work on November 4th. That was not a good move. She announced, we want the teachers to go back on November 4th. Yeah, I wonder why that day. Despite that, we had the best numbers. Look, we have states that are locked down, closed down. New York is having a hard time. I'll tell you, they don't know what the hell they're doing. Great place. I left it 3.5 years ago. I loved it, and it's very sad what's happening to New York. A very, very sad thing. In Chicago, look at Chicago. It's very sad. All run by Democrats, by the way. I want to just emphasize. How about Portland with the anarchists, right? With Antifa, they're Antifa anarchists. But how about Portland? We could solve that problem in 25 minutes like we did. We went into Seattle. We were ready to go in. We were all set to go in. And we told them we're going in tomorrow morning. And the night before...
This is President Trump.
Okay, well, we're leaving.
In Michigan, Traverse City. Obviously a very important swing state. We'll be dipping back into that if he's continue to speak. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Tony from Victorville, California, who disagrees with me. when I claim that there's no evidence of, quote, systemic racism. Tony, please, please, please do not leave town. 888-971-SAGE. And next hour, we'll be speaking with Congressman Mike Garcia, who's running for a fresh 2 years. He won a special election back in May. And we'll be speaking with Project Veritas in the third hour. They're suing the New York Times for defamation.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once has an old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Answer, practice.
Yes, I've used a similar example. I like rock and roll. And the guitarist from Led Zeppelin, a guy by the name of Jimmy Page, he was a studio musician for years, and he just played one exact note for note what he was told to play, and he played all the time in that mode. And by the time he got into the rock and roll band Led Zeppelin, he had complete freedom to make that guitar sound how he wanted it to sound because he had the discipline.
Exactly. It's exactly the same as mine, just different form of music. That's exactly right. All right, my friend, we're going to do an hour together. I'm so crazy about the book. I just wanted to, in this very urgent time, take time out to tell people about it. Discipline equals freedom. Jocko, we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it.
You, my friend, to say the least, have earned it. Thank you.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Let me ask you about the Senate. Recently, you said you were feeling that it was a 50-50 call whether you would retain the majority. I think it is dangerous to lose the majority. I am really praying for Susan Collins in Maine and Joni Ernst in Iowa and Martha McSally in Arizona. And yeah, I mean, those are three great different people, but then you got these businessmen, David Perdue in Georgia and Tom Tillis in North Carolina. They're very different people. We need John James in Michigan. We need Jason Lewis in Minnesota. Are you feeling better about the 50-50% that you gave 10 days ago?
Well, actually, I've been saying 50-50 all year. And the reason for that, Hugh, is because we have so many members up. We have 23 members up. They only have 12. The reason for that is this is the class that took the majority back in 2014. We elected a lot of new Republican senators in 2014, and so now we have a lot of exposure. So I've actually been saying 50-50 for well over a year. We've got a whole lot of close. I describe them as like a knife fight in an alley in about 6 or 8 different places. But we've got great candidates. I'm optimistic we can hold on. But, yeah, it's a 50-50 proposition.
I think you are doing a great thing. You along with Candace Owens. I think God put you here for us so that we can open our eyes. I am so sad that I have been blind my entire life until the last 2 or 3 years. And I thank God for you, sir. Continue the good work. And don't bite your tongue for nobody. God bless you, sir.
888-971-SAGE. 888-971-7243. Thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. Well, as you know, Election Day is tomorrow. Early in-person voting has already begun. Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, just to name some. Good news is we are turning out in record numbers, and there are many more states where early in-person voting has begun or is about to begin. All of us need to show up and show up strong. To figure out where and how, please go to keepamericaamerica.com. The folks at Job Creators Network provide the most up-to-date voting information you can count on. The election in 2016 was decided by thousands of votes, not even hundreds of thousands. And over 400,000 of you have already gone to keepamericaamerica.com. I want that number to exceed 1 million and make this the biggest get-out-the-vote effort in conservative history. So please visit keepamericaamerica.com and commit to take just one person to the polls or help someone complete his or her mail-in ballot. Do a little, do a lot, but please do your part. Go to keepamericaamerica.com right now. That's keepamericaamerica.com right now. Tony is in Victorville, California. Tony, thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it.
How you doing, Larry?
I'm doing well.
See, Larry, the issue is this. It's not that we know that racism exists in this country. We've had this discussion before. We know that this country was founded on the belief that one group of people is superior to another group of people. That's not we can't argue that. That's a fact. So what you want us to believe now is that group of people that believed that they were superior, all of a sudden now, they believe that everybody is equal now. That they believe that nothing is different between the two now. Everything is equal. So they have to believe that for racism and systemic racism not to exist, they have to believe that everybody can be themselves and we're all equal. See, you have to be
Tony,
what they want you to be to keep your job.
Tony, I think you've made your point. May I ask you something, please? Tony, how old are you?
I'm 54.
54, and you are black. Is that correct?
Yes, Larry.
Okay, did you finish high school?
100%.
Did you go to college?
Yes, sir.
Did you graduate?
Yes, sir.
What was your major?
Business.
What did you do when you graduated?
Started my own company.
Do you still have it?
Yes, I do.
Has systemic racism held you back, Tony?
That's not the issue, Larry.
Of course it's the issue.
That's not the point.
The issue is whether... May I finish? Okay, all right, Tony. I'm sorry. We're not going to talk over each other. I'm going to finish my point. That most certainly is the issue. Nobody is denying that racism exists. No one is denying that at one time America could be called systemically racist. The question is today, in 2020... In November 2020, does racism stop anybody in America from realizing his or her potential if he or she wishes to work hard? Just as you've done, Tony, that's the issue. Now, the question is, does systemic racism stop anybody in America, irrespective of race, from becoming what he or she wants to be? That's my question.
Larry, that's not the question. The question is, does it exist? You're talking about a different question.
Tony, I've never said for the millionth time $10,000 to your favorite charity where Larry Elder says racism doesn't exist. I've never said that. Bigotry exists. I'm talking to one. You're bigoted against black conservatives who don't feel the way you feel. Nobody's ever said racism is gone. For crying out loud, I've mentioned many times 2002, a Fox Opinion survey, 8% of Americans believe that Elvis may still be alive. That's almost 27 million Americans. So, Tony, nobody's ever said racism doesn't exist. The question is it systemic? And if so, name the corporation that systemically discriminates against racism. Name the government agency that systemically discriminates against black people. Give it to me. Name the police department that systemically discriminates against black people. Please name it. Your turn, Tony.
You know and I know. In every company, even in sports. We have just come to the point now where we're able to call a quarterback and not a black quarterback.
Tony, name the company. Name the
happened.
company that discriminates against black people, please.
Everyone, Larry.
Every single one of them?
Name the one that doesn't.
Really? So
you tell me the one that doesn't.
CNN discriminates against black people?
Tell me the one that doesn't.
Wow, Tony, you're the one who made the assertion. See, it's interesting. I asked you to prove your point, and you tell me to prove your point. You're the one who made the assertion.
No.
You're the one who made the assertion. You said every single corporation. Name one, and you're telling me to name the company.
I'm telling you, you name the one.
Tony, name the corporation that discriminates against black people. All I want is one. You have it?
Name the one that doesn't, Larry. Name the one that doesn't.
Tony, here's the way it works. When someone makes an assertion, it's up to them to back up their assertion. It isn't up to the other person to disprove it. You just made an assertion. Every single corporation in America systemically discriminates against black people, so therefore you ought to be able to name one. Give me one. IBM?
Let me ask you a question, Larry. Let me ask you a question.
Tesla? Give me the company that discriminates. And where are the lawsuits, Tony? Where are the lawsuits? Where are the class action lawsuits against all these corporations that allegedly discriminate against black people? Where's the class action lawsuit against the police department that discriminates against black people? Where are the class action lawsuits, Tony? If it's every company that does it, where are the lawsuits?
How long did it take a president that wasn't European to get voted in? How long did that take, Larry? How long has this country been?
Tony, name another majority white country where a person of African American descent has become president. England, there are black people living in England. France, there are black people living in France. Germany, there are black people living in Germany. America is the least racist majority white country in the world. Canada, have they nominated a black person? Has been a black person to run Canada? Still there, Tony?
400 years.
I'm sorry?
For an individual that wasn't European to become.
All right, Tony. So because in the past Americans would not have voted against a black president, the fact that they did is irrelevant? Tony, I think we've jumped the shark here. I appreciate the call, Tony. Tony, you're determined to prove that America is intrinsically racist. It doesn't matter that you, Tony, have been able to start a business, run a business, keep a business. That doesn't prove anything. I guess you're just so exceptional that the racism that holds other people back didn't bother you, or you were just spectacularly lucky and the average black person could not get as lucky as you. But I do appreciate the fact that you keep listening to the show, Tony, honestly. Thank you very much. Now, how many years have I been telling you about Relief Factor? 5, 6, 7 years? People say there might be over 100 million folks struggling with some kind of pain, whether from exercise or just getting older. Well, Pete and Seth Talbot are on a mission to see if they can't get you out of pain. I suggest you order their 3-week quick start, which is still discounted to only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. After that, less than the cost of a cup of coffee a day to stay out of pain. And remember, over 70% of the people who ordered the 3-week quick start go on to order more. People don't keep ordering it unless it does some sort of good. So go to relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Remember, only $19.95. Or call 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Philadelphia, the fatal police shooting of 27-year-old Walter Wallace from City Journal in West Philadelphia has set off another round of mass looting, arson, and violence. Wallace, who had a long criminal history and evident mental problems, was confronted by 2 police officers who ordered him repeatedly to put down the knife that he was wielding. Wallace refused to drop the knife, charged the officers, and was shot multiple times. The shooting sparked looting and vandalism in and around West Philadelphia's 52nd Street corridor, where the 18th District Police District is located. Incidentally, I have very vivid memories of arriving to give a speech in Philadelphia on the night of the Philadelphia Phillies winning the World Series. And we could not travel directly to our hotel in downtown Philadelphia because of all the rioting that was taking place. So Philadelphia has a tradition of riots that are caused by all sorts of things. And the primary source has nothing to do with events. Events are excuses to riot. The people who riot are bored, aimless, and they have no conscience that you and I can relate to. They probably have no father. They certainly have no 10 Commandments. Just thought I'd throw that out.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Mayor Giuliani, when they say they are investigating one man and his business associates, what does that mean? Who is in the net? And could it be the Democrat candidate for the highest office in the land, Joe Biden?
It has to be, because the money laundering was being done for his benefit. And if you listen to his son's description of it on the hard drive, which no one has disputed, he makes it clear that Pop gets half of that. Pop, according to a text message of January 3rd, 2019, for 30 years, he's been taking care of all the expenses of the family. That's Hunter. And Pop requires him to give half of the money to him.
Would love your advice.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. That is, of course, the $64,000 question, isn't it? How do you convert a Biden voter into a Trump voter, or at least somebody who does not go in there like lemmings and pull that lever for somebody who's going to tax, spend, regulate, and completely reverse many of Donald Trump's gains? I think a lot of people don't realize how bad it's going to be. Bernie Sanders says that he's going to put so much pressure on Joe Biden. He's going to be the most progressive president since FDR, which means a $15 minimum wage, which means we're going to raise taxes on the non-rich, despite what he says, which means we're probably going to see an attempt to eliminate the Electoral College, probably going to see an attempt to make Puerto Rico a state, not because they give a rip about Puerto Rico, but because they want 2 more left-wing senators. Same thing with Washington, D.C. You're going to see the introduction of the so-called Green Deal. We're going to go back into the Paris Accord, probably go back into the treaty with Iran, a treaty that Iran has been violating. Even the countries that have remained in it have recognized that Iran is violating the treaty. And this new Green Deal is very serious. Joe Biden says he wants to have zero fossil fuel emissions by, he said 2025. I think he meant 2050. 2025 is less than 5 years. Let's hope he meant 2050. And, of course, a whole bunch of judges that believe that the Second Amendment does not confer an individual right to keep and bear arms, a bunch of judges that believe that race is a legitimate factor when it comes to admissions into colleges and universities, because that certainly is going to be coming up. And we're going to be having all sorts of challenges against Roe v. Wade. And if a left-wing president like Joe Biden comes in, the next vacancy probably will be Stephen Breyer, and that person will be another person that believes the Constitution is a living, breathing document, and not that believes it's a contract in the lines of Antonin Scalia and Justice Clarence Thomas and the new Justice Amy Coney Barrett. The country will be dramatically different. Forget about building further walls. In fact, the wall that Donald Trump has put up will probably be coming down. Forget about the investigations against Hunter Biden. That'll be over. Forget about the Dunham report. That'll be stopped. Be a very different country on a dime if this man gets elected. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. Do not leave town.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once says an old joke, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Answer, practice.
Yes, I've used a similar example. I like rock and roll. And the guitarist from Led Zeppelin, a guy by the name of Jimmy Page, he was a studio musician for years, and he just played exact note for note what he was told to play, and he played all the time in that mode. And by the time he got into the rock and roll band Led Zeppelin, he had complete freedom to make that guitar sound how he wanted it to sound because he had the discipline.
Exactly. It's exactly the same as mine, just different form of music. That's exactly right. All right, my friend, we're going to do an hour together. I'm so crazy about the book. I just wanted to, in this very urgent time, take time out to tell people about it. Discipline equals freedom. Jocko, we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it.
You, my friend, to say the least, have earned it. Thank you.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Let me ask you about the Senate. Recently, you said you were feeling that it was a 50-50 call whether you would retain the majority. I think it is dangerous to lose the majority. I am really praying for Susan Collins in Maine and Joni Ernst in Iowa and Martha McSally in Arizona. And yeah, I mean, those are three great different people. But then you got these businessmen, David Perdue in Georgia and Tom Tillis in North Carolina. They're very different people. We need John James in Michigan. We need Jason Lewis in Minnesota. Are you feeling better about the 50-50% that you gave 10 days ago?
Well, actually, I've been saying 50-50 all year. And the reason for that, Hugh, is because we have so many members up. We have 23 members up. They only have 12. The reason for that is this is the class that took the majority back in 2014. We elected a lot of new Republican senators in 2014, and so now we have a lot of exposure. So I've actually been saying 50-50 for well over a year. We've got a whole lot of close. I describe them as like a knife fight in an alley in about 6 or 8 different places. But we've got great candidates. I'm optimistic we can hold on. But, yeah, it's a 50-50 proposition.
Now, what do you see generally about the election nationally? Because as normal, the polls have changed dramatically over the last 2 weeks, from predicting a blowout for the Democrats to, oh, my goodness, it's too close to call. It happens every 4 years. I'm used to it, but the American public sometimes forgets. How do you feel about the reelection of the president right now, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell?
Yeah, I think since the last debate, the president has improved dramatically.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
I do believe, though, that President Donald Trump will comfortably win Florida. Every single Republican precinct and district that we are looking at in Florida and analyzing the data, it is looking increasingly good for the president. And so we are now not looking at a presidential race. We are not looking at a national race. We are looking at a small set of gubernatorial races to win the White House. That's what we are. President Donald Trump basically has to win state races in 2 or 3 states to become president of the United States for 4 more years. He has to win a governor's race, metaphorically in Arizona, in Pennsylvania, hold Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, and he wins. It's that simple. And one of the amazing things is, now that as I'm wearing my Justice League shirt with Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh, is how the left refused to attack Amy Coney Barrett at all whatsoever. And so just a piece of advice for the president, mention Amy Coney Barrett in every one of your rallies that you're doing on television. Say, isn't she great? Look at Amy Coney Barrett. She's on the Supreme Court. We got it done. In fact, you can start to see how the Democrats were attacking the process. I don't want to attack the nominee. And Amy Coney Barrett said it the best in Cut 10, where she discussed the difference of a senator and a justice. Play Cut 10.
It is the job of a senator to pursue her policy preferences. In fact, it would be a dereliction of duty for her to put policy goals aside. By contrast, it is the job of a judge to resist her policy preferences.
That's the difference between a constitutional judge and an activist judge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Since the presidency of Richard Nixon, Joe Biden has been a senator in the United States Senate. Since the presidency of Nixon, that is how long he has had power. We now can see clearly, we might have suspected it, that he has used that power, he's peddled influence, he's traded it for money. We now have evidence. It is so stunning that it's hard to take in, but even more stunning is that the media, and this grieves me deeply as an American, refuses to report on this. Jenna Ellis, what in the world are we to make of this?
This is so important because this presents a national security risk that Joe Biden has compromised his fidelity to an office of public trust, because that's what it is. When we elect people to participate in government, to have the powers of their office, that is a public trust. And the impeachment clause
Triple 8-971 SAGE 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Next hour, we'll be speaking with James O'Keefe of Project Veritas. He has filed a defamation lawsuit against the New York Times for accusing him of journalistic malpractice. Can you imagine that? And he's filed a lawsuit against them. They've routinely claimed that his videos are misleading, edited, false. He said, all right. And in a few minutes, we'll be speaking with Congressman Mike Garcia, who won a special election to take over the seat from Katie Hill, who resigned over some photos that perhaps should not have made it to the public. She was a Democrat. He's a Republican. Very, very well-financed opponent. He's trying to hold that seat for the Republicans here in California. We'll be talking with Congressman Mike Garcia in just a few minutes. There is an article in the New York Post we have up on LarryElder.com, written by Miranda Devine. Headline, Democrats are masking Biden's frailty. I told you that Barack Obama and Joe Biden are campaigning for the first time together. And Obama gave a opening speech introducing Joe Biden. And then this is what happened after Obama concludes his big stem-winding speech.
Joe Biden! Joe Biden! Joe Biden!
And he called Joe Biden 3 times before Joe Biden came ambling out. And I don't know, who knows what was going on. Maybe nature called, maybe his hearing aid fell out. I have no idea. But here's what the New York Post says. Has there been a worse candidate in history than Joe Biden? It says when this election is over, the books are going to be revealing on what went on backstage nobody told us about. Take Biden's car rally in Flint, Michigan on Saturday. Awkward barely covers it. Obama, effortlessly cool, gave a warm-up speech to the assembled cars before ramping up to a dramatic introduction. My friend, the next president of the United States, Joe Biden.
Joe Biden! Joe Biden! Joe Biden!
Moments ticked by, but there was no sign of the candidate. Obama tried a third time. Joe Biden! Biden at last emerged from a nearby building and did a pantomime slow jog to the stage. The worst part came later. After Biden shouted his way through a short teleprompter speech, Obama came back on stage, perhaps to escort him off, because Biden did not seem to know where he was. Obama mined an elbow pump with his former VP to signal that they should leave the stage, and then quietly whispered to him, after which it dawned on Biden he'd forgotten his mask. Not for the first time. When your entire campaign is about mass-shaming Trump, it's not a forgivable lapse. Biden looked like a chastened schoolboy as he fumbled through his folder in all his pockets looking for that face mask. He walked back to the lectern and searched to no avail before fumbling through his pockets again. Finally, he found the mask in his left trouser pocket, held it aloft sheepishly at Obama, and placed it on his face. But then he paused and looked in seeming confusion at the microphone laying on the lectern where he left it. He picked it up, held it briefly to his masked face before laying it down again and rejoining Obama. Whatever emotions were going through Obama's mind at that point, he kept under wraps, but he did slow down and look back as he shepherded Biden down the stairs and away from prying eyes. In other words, he was treating the man who would be president like an invalid. New York Post says, really, it was sad. But the sad thing is that all these Democrats are conspiring to make sure this man gets elected, irrespective of his obvious cognitive difficulties. Quote, but this is the story of the campaign, encapsulated in 70 seconds of video, and it is an indictment of the entire Democrat establishment that has conspired to trick America into voting for somebody so incapable of being president, end of quote.
Joe Biden! Joe Biden! Joe Biden!
Sad if it weren't so scary. Bernie Sanders says that, quote, our first task, we've got to defeat the worst president in modern history in this country. And number two, we organize our people to make sure that Biden becomes the most progressive president since FDR, end of quote. What does that mean? COVID-19. As far as I can tell, Biden hasn't said he's going to do anything that Trump isn't already doing, other than follow the doctor's advice and shut down more parts of our economy. He wants to repeal the tax cuts, not just the individual tax cuts, but also the corporate rates, wants to put it back to 28%. That'll cost thousands of jobs. He wants to ban the manufacture and sale of assault weapons. That's what he calls assault weapons, AR-15s and pistols. Harris wants to end the product liability immunity of American gun makers. So does Joe Biden. Forget about the investigation of Hunter Biden, which apparently has begun since 2019 and has been ongoing. Forget about the Durham report, because very likely the AG will order the Durham investigation to be stopped. Joe Biden wants to, quote, transition the economy away from fossil fuels by 2015. Completely destructive. The border wall, are you kidding me? He said he'll put a 100-day moratorium on deportations. He'll end the assault against so-called sanctuary cities that Donald Trump is engaged in. And he'll probably put a 20 million illegal aliens on path for citizenship. I say 20 million, not 11 million, because a Yale study puts a number at between 20 and 25 million. So we're talking about dramatically changing the electorate of this country, dramatically changing the constitution of the Senate of this country through the admission of states of Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C., bringing 4 more Democrat lawmakers. They'll probably make some sort of attempt to get rid of the Electoral College, get rid of the filibuster. Of course, this assumes that they take control of the Senate. and the Republicans are defending far more seats than our Democrats. Lil Wayne has endorsed Donald Trump for president. That is the rapper. Quote, I had a great meeting with President Trump. Besides what he's done so far with criminal reform, the Platinum Plan that he's advocating is going to give the community real ownership. He listened to what we had to say today and assured he will and can get it done, end of quote. There are projections that President Trump might get as high as 30% of the black vote. I've always felt 30% was doable. Why? Because out here in California some years ago, we had a proposition called Proposition 209 that banned the use of race as a factor, as a criterion, and when it comes to admissions to students in the public colleges and universities here in California, when it comes to hiring for jobs in California, and when it comes to contracting for government jobs. At one time, people would have an advantage if they were female or if they were a black person or a brown person. That all was done away with Proposition 209. 30% of black people voted to get rid of the use of race and gender-based preferences in those areas. That means 30% of black people felt the playing field was level enough, or felt that whatever happened in the past, one should not burden people who had nothing to do with it, and therefore were willing to get rid of race-based preferences, even though it gave them an advantage. So I said way back then, that's a good 30% that I believe Republicans could get if only they made the pitch right, and that might very well be the case. The Travolga Group has Trump improving his black vote in Pennsylvania to 13.4%. Wisconsin, close to 20%. Rasmussen puts it at 25%. Others have it even higher. A Rasmussen pollster calls it the 50-cent effect. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. McConnell. The 50-cent effect. Mr. McConnell's about ready to correct my pronunciation. Got to keep it real. Got to keep my street cred up. Do they still say street cred, or is that term, has that been retired? You quit while I'm ahead? All right. 888-971-SAGE. Congressman Mike Garcia up next. He wants to win a fresh 2 after winning an unexpired term last year. All of that and more. And we'll be talking with James O'Keefe of Project Veritas in the third hour. He's filed a defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. I am Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
I do believe, though, that President Donald Trump will comfortably win Florida. Every single Republican precinct and district that we are looking at in Florida and analyzing the data, it is looking increasingly good for the president. And so we are now not looking at a presidential race. We are not looking at a national race. We are looking at a small set of gubernatorial races to win the White House. That's what we are. President Donald Trump basically has to win state races in 2 or 3 states to become president of the United States for 4 more years. He has to win a governor's race, metaphorically in Arizona, in Pennsylvania, hold Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, and he wins. It's that simple. And one of the amazing things is, now that as I'm wearing my Justice League shirt with Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh, is how the left refused to attack Amy Coney Barrett at all whatsoever. And so just a piece of advice for the president, mention Amy Coney Barrett in every one of your rallies that you're doing on television. Say, isn't she great? Look at Amy Coney Barrett. She's on the Supreme Court. We got it done. In fact, you can start to see how the Democrats were attacking the process. I don't want to attack the nominee. And Amy Coney Barrett said it the best in Cut 10, where she discussed the difference of a senator and a justice. Play Cut 10.
It is the job of a senator to pursue her policy preferences. In fact, it would be a dereliction of duty for her to put policy goals aside. By contrast, it is the job of a judge to resist her policy preferences.
That's the difference between a constitutional judge and an activist judge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Since the presidency of Richard Nixon, Joe Biden has been a senator in the United States Senate since the presidency of Nixon. That is how long he has had power. We now can see clearly, we might have suspected it, that he has used that power, he's peddled influence, he's traded it for money. We now have evidence. It is so stunning that it's hard to take in, but even more stunning is that the media, and this grieves me deeply as an American, refuses to report on this. Jenna Ellis, what in the world are we to make of this?
This is so important because this presents a national security risk that Joe Biden has compromised his fidelity to an office of public trust, because that's what it is. When we elect people to participate in government, to have the powers of their office, that is a public trust. And the impeachment clause is designed to ensure that your fiduciary responsibility, your integrity, your allegiance is to your office, to your country, to have America first, as President Trump says, and to make sure that your allegiance is not compromised to a foreign government. And that is exactly what the evidence is showing that Joe Biden has done throughout his time as the Vice President of the United States.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Michael Moore is essentially saying the same thing. Yesterday, he was interviewed on a show called Rising on Hill TV. Here's what he said just yesterday.
Trump has tightened virtually every one of these swing states. Listen, don't believe these polls. The Trump vote is always being undercounted. Pollsters, when they actually call a real Trump voter, the Trump voter is very suspicious.
Hey, Larry, you are a fantastic human being. Hey, listen, I'm kind of confused on this Joe Biden not being able to remember things or talk correctly, or I don't know. I think it's, you know what, never mind what I think. He's such a liar. He's such a liar. Thanks, Larry, for all you do.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. And again, next hour, we will be speaking with James Veritas of Project Veritas. He is filing James O'Keefe of Project Veritas. He's filing a lawsuit, a defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. He'll explain why next hour. Now, my next guest is running to retain his seat. He is the congressman from California's 25th District, took over for the unexpired term of Katie Hill, a Democrat who resigned. He's a native of Santa Clarita since he moved to Saugus, California in '82 with his mom and his stepfather, who was an LAPD officer. Always wanted to become a naval aviator. Was nominated by Representative Buck McKean to attend the Naval Academy in Annapolis, where he graduated in the top 3% of his class with a degree in poli-sci. He became an FA-18 pilot, was deployed several times on the USS Nimitz, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. Saw combat operations during the first 6 months of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. Participated in over 30 combat sorties in skies above Baghdad, Fallujah, and Tikrit. Flew over 30 missions, as I pointed out. His district covers part of Northern California County, Eastern Ventura County, includes cities of Santa Clarita, Simi Valley, Palmdale, Lancaster, and the northern part of the San Fernando Valley. Please welcome back to the program, Congressman Mike Garcia. Congressman, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me again, Larry. Really appreciate your time.
Congressman, how's your race going?
It's going very well. You know, we really never came out of campaign mode with the special election just on May 12th, being in office now 6 months. We kept the team together, one of the best grassroots campaigns in the nation, with about 500 volunteers who are out knocking on doors and making phone calls. And we've got all the same ingredients here with only a day to go, and we're feeling very confident about this one.
Well, Congressman, when you and I talked after you won to take over in that special election, you knew that they were going to turn all their guns against you and put a lot of money into your opponent. Is your opponent outspending you?
No, we're actually outraising her and outspending my opponent. My problem is I've got Nancy Pelosi, who has spent about $6 million from her PAC in the last 6 weeks. So overall, we're probably neck and neck in terms of who's spending the total amount of money, but Pelosi has not gone quietly into the night on this one, and she's definitely taken this very personally and looking to get the seat back. But I think we're going to be able to hold her off here. We do need the good guys to show up and vote. A lot of Republicans still need to vote, and that middle third is still showing up in good support here with 24 hours to go. So we're looking for that final turnout.
I'm talking to Congressman Mike Garcia. Congressman, in your district, what are the big issues?
Well, right now it's just about survival. I mean, we've got obviously the COVID crisis going on, and we're experiencing one of the highest unemployment rates in our district throughout the entire nation here. We've got a lot of large corporations and amusement parks, Hollywood production that's out of business. So for me, my last 6 months has been focused on taking care of our constituents. Katie Hill resigned in November, and we didn't take office until May. So we had about 500 casework packages that we were focused on helping our constituents with VA, Social Security, COVID relief. And I'm running against someone who is truly a bona fide socialist who represents us in Sacramento in the Assembly, and she's passing bills like AB 5 and raising our taxes. These are bills and tax initiatives that are absolutely crushing our economy. So she's got her fingerprints all over this mass exodus of Californians leaving. And it's really about just survival in California and making sure our country doesn't turn into what California has become.
I'm talking to Congressman Mike Garcia. His website, electmikegarcia.com, electmikegarcia.com. Mike, how are you feeling about the election? How are you feeling about the Senate?
Yeah, I think overall, I think the president's going to win by a substantial margin. That's my opinion. Just based on the energy we're seeing in the swing states, the numbers are looking more favorable.
The energy, Congressman, is off the chart. I've never seen energy like this.
Yeah, and we're seeing it as well in our district. I mean, we have rallies and parades and folks coming out to support not only the president but also myself. So I think my race is going to be okay. We're gonna have some anxious moments here for the next 24, 36 hours. President will be fine. I do think we're going to hold on to the Senate. I think the way things are working out and the timing of the ups and downs here is going to be in our favor ultimately. The president's done a nice job of continuing to work hard, and all these Senate candidates are continuing to push hard as well. So I think we're going to be okay. Hopefully we have a shot at getting the House back. That's looking like less likely than holding the Senate, and obviously the president winning his election, but we've got to run like it's a real opportunity.
Congressman, as you know, most of the national polls have the president behind, and most of the polls have him behind in the so-called battleground states. I take it you don't put much stock in the polls.
No, we've got a thick pile of pundits and professionals who have called our race wrong from day one, and we managed to prove them all wrong. So I don't put much stock in the polls. They're not talking to people who are voting in this election. They're talking to people who have voted, 4 elections ago, and that's not necessarily relevant data. So anyone who's paying attention, who's watching things going on, knows right now that this president's in good position, knows that there's a lot of solid Republicans out there who are going to benefit from not only his energy, but also our own energy within the district. We just have to convert it. We've got to get the good guys to show up to vote. It's not just Republicans. There's conservatives in the middle third, and there's about 10% of the Democrats who are going to break our way, and we just got to make sure they're getting to the polls.
Congressman, as you know, the New York Times published a so-called bombshell story, and since then there have been other stories that suggest that Joe Biden knew a whole lot more about what his son was doing, and maybe Joe Biden might even be the person referred to as the big guy, close quote, on one of the emails. The big guy would be entitled to 10% of some sort of deal that's being done. So many people, as you know, Congressman, have already voted, so as a result, the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden factor may not be nearly as relevant.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a little bit late in the timing, maybe to move the needle too much. But I think that middle third, like I said, the folks who were either undecided or being objective were waiting towards the end. But of all things that are evident now, I'm pretty good at sniffing out a faker, and obviously I decided to run because of Katie Hill winning the election in 2018. I knew she was a faker. And we all know now that Joe Biden is a faker, and after 47 years of really doing nothing, he doesn't deserve this office. But look, I think the timing is okay still. I think there's enough people eyes wide open already before this news broke out, and the president should be all right.
Congressman, I'm still trying to figure out, we only have a minute left, if Joe Biden were to become elected, what is his plan to deal with COVID-19?
I don't know. It sounds like he's going to hunker down himself. I think his plan is to make sure he doesn't get COVID-19, and that's his only plan he's got so far, and He's been executing that plan by staying in the basement. But I'm worried for this nation. I can't imagine a world we wake up where we have Biden, Schumer, and Pelosi running the world, and it would be a terrible position for our nation to be in.
My guest has been Congressman Mike Garcia. Again, his website is electmikegarcia.com. He's running for another term for Congressman of the 25th California District, former U.S. Navy fighter pilot and businessman, Congressman Mike Garcia. Again, website electmikegarcia.com. That's electmikegarcia.com. Congressman, as always, thank you very much for coming on, and good luck.
Thank you, Larry. I really appreciate it.
You got it. 888-971-SAGE. I am the great Eldersky. Do not leave town.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
The dirty tricks they're using in South Carolina and what this has to say about Jamie Harrison, the Democrat candidate for Senate who's challenging Lindsey Graham. This race has kind of turned into a national referendum in a way of Democrat dirty tricks versus the Republican Party. It's a little bit like the Ted Cruz Beto O'Rourke battle was in 2018. Over at Red State, they write, not a day goes by where there isn't a fawning puff piece on how Harrison has managed to make a race competitive. You want to know how they're trying to win in South Carolina and beat Lindsey Graham? They're not trying to advance the message of this liberal Democrat Jamie Harrison. They're pretending that a guy named Bill Bledsoe, who dropped out a month ago, he was earlier in the year challenging Lindsey, he dropped out and voted for Lindsey Graham. He's a complete Lindsey Graham supporters. But get this, because Bledsoe missed the deadline to be removed from the ballot prior to withdrawing, his name is still on the ballot. And so the pro-Jamie Harrison side, including the Never Trumpers and all those scoundrels who hate Trump and are trying every way they can to lift up Democrats, they're lying to the voters of South Carolina by saturating the airwaves with ads that suggest that Bill Bledsoe is a viable alternative to Lindsey Graham.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The president brought up the laptop and China. He made a couple of clear points. The moderator, who was generally very good, stepped on his punchlines, she muddied up those moments. And that to me was a pity.
Yes, and I completely agree with you that, Kristen Welker, who is the moderator, did a much better job in terms of allowing the discourse back and forth. I thought she was a lot more fair than Chris Wallace. Absolutely. But the one complaint that I had with her is the exact same thing that you pointed out, Eric, was that she did not want this laptop story to be discussed back and forth. And so every time that the president made a very clear point and was asking Joe Biden a question, she would say, oh, that's on topic. I want to stay on the race issue, or I want to stay on climate change, or, we're not talking about that right now. And she would cut in and interrupt. And I think there was some statistic where she interrupted the president about 41 times and Joe Biden only 8 times. And granted, she allowed the back and forth, the 2-minute openings where their mics were muted. That was fine. But it was very clear that she did not want any discourse about this laptop, which is so unfortunate because the American people need to understand what's going on here. I thought the president explained it incredibly well. And to have a moderator interject themselves like that is activism, and it's absolutely inappropriate. And that's something that just clearly evidences that the mainstream media has a biased agenda and that they are trying to protect Joe Biden from this story. So you have to ask yourself, why?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet. that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best.
Hi, I'm just calling you from Menifee, California, letting you know we are here in early voting, and they're not letting us vote in person. They're saying that the system is down, and they're taking these ballots, but they're segregating them. They really can't count them, apparently. So this makes no sense, and I'm letting you know they're stopping us from voting in person.
I'll be back pulling strings to get guys elected mayor and governor before you ever get a $10 raise. Yeah, how many of those guys in office owe everything to me? I made them. Yeah, I made them just like a tailor makes a suit of clothes. I take a nobody, see? Teach him what to say. Get his name in the papers. Now, paper is campaign expenses. Dish out a lot of groceries and coal. Get my boys to bring the voters out. And then count the votes over and over again till they added up right and he was elected.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Be sure to become an Eldorado. Go to my website, LarryElder.com. Click on the little E icon and become an Eldorado. You'll be able to get the podcast of our show with all the commercial interruptions removed. How many people do we get complaining about the commercial interruptions? They are removed from the podcast, and you'll be able to hear it on whatever device you want, however often you want. And the cost is only 99 cents for the first month, practically giving it away. And be sure and follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Speaking of voting shenanigans, by a 4-3 decision, Democrat justices on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ordered that mail ballots received up to 3 days after Election Day must be counted if they were postmarked on or before November 3. Also, the majority of this court required election officials to presume that any ballot received by the extended deadline that lacks an intelligible postmark was still mailed by Election Day, unless there is a preponderance of evidence to the contrary. The decision of the court forces officials to count ballots received up to 3 days after the Election Day, even if they lack a legible postmark or any postmark at all. An open invitation for voters to cast their ballots after Election Day, thereby injecting a whole bunch of chaos and potential for gamesmanship into what's supposed to be an orderly, secure process in the state of Philadelphia. Shannon is in Shelby, North Carolina. Shannon, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Hey, Larry. Hope you're having a good evening.
Evening, Shannon.
Thank you. I don't believe Biden could have won if he had had every liberal socialist superstar such as Madonna or Bruce Springsteen or Oprah or anybody show up or perform. He couldn't have done it. And we're going to have a big win tomorrow, and I hope that all the other senators and I hope we all have a big win and a sweep throughout the nation.
Well, Shannon, I sure hope you're right. Speaking of celebrities, a whole bunch of them now saying that if President Trump wins, they're going to leave. Yet another reason to vote for President Trump. Bruce Springsteen, quote, "I love Australia. Every time we have nothing but good times down there. I would consider moving there in the event that Donald Trump gets reelected." Tommy Lee, the Motley Crue drummer, he says he's leaving if Trump beats Joe Biden. Dude, I swear to God, if that happens and I'm going over to visit UK, I'm out of here. I'll go back to my motherland, go back to Greece and get a house on one of the islands. End of quote. Ricky Martin. What was that song he did, the big song he did, Mr. McConnell? La Vida Loca, thank you. Living La Vida Loca. Quote, "I've been supporting Biden forever." Well, Biden's been in office forever. "I've been supporting Biden forever. I think he's the only option we have, and he is great, and he has been in politics all his life. This is the moment. We all need to get together and be loud about the course of this nation." End of quote. In his interview, Ricky Martin revealed that he and his husband, Swan Yosef, made plans to leave the country if Trump wins re-election. but he stopped short of promising. They made plans. It's just given. John Legend and his wife, Christy Teigen. Quote, every once in a while you think about it. We were both born and raised here. Our families are here. But it would be hard to leave. I don't know who's supposed to. Have you ever seen anybody that makes so much money, so successful, smiling all the time, always whining about racism? And nobody's going to leave. Are you kidding me? My caller, Tony, who insists that systemic racism, he's still here. Tony hadn't gone anywhere. Honestly, there is a sociologist, black sociologist at Harvard. His name is Orlando Patterson. He's been there for years. In the 90s, before Obama, let alone got reelected in the 90s, he said America is the least racist majority society in all the world, provides more opportunities for blacks than any other nation, including all of those of Africa. End of quote. That was in the 90s. By the way, he is a left-wing guy, voted twice for Obama. I'm assuming he's going to vote for Biden this time around. He's nobody's Republican, let alone conservative. He's just being honest. Have you ordered the 3-week quick start from Relief Factor yet? It's only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. Over 70% of the people who order the 3-week quick start go on to order more. 4 all-natural ingredients, each of which deals with pain on a different metabolic pathway. Go to relieffactor.com, or call 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Michael Moore is essentially saying the same thing. Yesterday, he was interviewed on a show called Rising on Hill TV. Here's what he said just yesterday.
Trump has tightened virtually every one of these swing states. Listen, don't believe these polls. The Trump vote is always being undercounted. Pollsters, when they actually call a real Trump voter, the Trump voter is very suspicious of the deep state calling them and asking them who they're voting for. Whatever they're saying the Biden lead is, cut it in half right now in your head. Cut it in half, and now you're within the 4-point margin of error. That's how close this is. That's how desperately close this is.
That was yesterday. That's Michael Moore this time around. And you know, when I listened to that speech from 2016 about the despair that people have to encounter with a message of doom and negativity. Here was Biden yesterday in Tampa while Trump had a rally with the First Lady in front of thousands of people outside Raymond James Stadium. Biden had a handful of cars at the state fair, I guess the Tampa, I don't know, the state fairgrounds. He keeps talking about the dark winter. Biden it was so depressing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
As a GDP growth figure nudged 3%. I can remember those days. It seems
like 33.1%. Wow.
Okay, let's just stop.
Growth. It's the best we've ever had.
33.1%. It's 7% quarter on quarter, 33.1% annualized. You are the person we come to for trusted information about our economy, about the markets. Did you expect that kind of figure coming out of COVID?
Not as quite as good as that. I mean, I did believe that we could see a V-shaped recovery, but I did not, to be perfectly fair. I mean, I know that the Atlanta Fed had predicted 33%. I thought, gosh, I hope so. But I still worry that there are parts of our economy that are still shut down in massive ways, right? The travel industry, the entertainment industry, sporting, all of that kind of thing. So all the more reason, Seb, for us to be completely blown away and super excited by this. It tells you we are back in a growth trajectory.
Hey, big fan. Thank you for everything you do. I just had a question to you. It seems now the old days, someone would go in, they would be on the voter registration, they'd be handed a little list of votes. They could vote. You go into a booth, you are private, you put it in, it's anonymous what that slip of paper votes for. Now, when people are writing in, they're writing in using their signature. Signature has to be matched. I don't know if the form has your name on top of it, but that means somewhere in the system, somebody with access could find out everything that you vote for. Doesn't that change the picture in a way that's not good? I thought it was a sacred right to have privacy in your votes.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. It's going to be a very, very long night tomorrow in the event that the election is close. In the event that it's one-sided one way or the other, maybe, just maybe, people will accept the results. But if it's close, remember, Donald Trump won, and for 4 years, people have been calling him illegitimate. John Lewis, after he won the election, referred to him as an illegitimate president. Did you know 1/3 of the Democrats boycotted his inaugural, several never attended his State of the Union speech? They tried to invoke the 25th Amendment, arguing that he was mentally unfit to become president. AOC said that the most serious basis for impeachment, she felt, was the violation of the Emolument Clause. Most people don't even know what the Emolument Clause is. I'm sure she didn't even know what it is. Claiming that Donald Trump has been benefiting himself, enriching himself in the office. That wasn't even part of the impeachment, but AOC said that was her primary reason for it, for the impeachment. And then, of course, the man was impeached, 2.5-year investigation, and he's still standing there. It's stunning. It is stunning the race is this close, given 90% or so of the coverage has been negative. He only received 2 newspaper endorsements, and only one of them really counts because one of them was a newspaper owned by Nelson Adelson, who financially supported President Trump. So only one newspaper not connected to his campaign endorsed him. I think only a handful of senators endorsed him, a handful of members of the House endorsed him. The previous occupant of the White House, Republican occupant of the White House, did not endorse him. And still this man is standing, called a fascist and a Nazi and a Hitler and a dictator. And then they were mad at him for not imposing a national face mask mandate like a Nazi or a fascist or a dictator would do. He cannot win. We had these ridiculous caravans coming up here. They've stopped. Any credit for that? Of course not. And all these peace deals that we brokered with Bahrain, UAE, and now Sudan. And what did John Kerry say?
There will be no separate peace between Israel and the Arab world. I want to make that very clear to all of you. I've heard several prominent politicians. Israel sometimes saying, well, the Arab world's in a different place now.
Well, the Arab world in a different place right now. You're not going to get, maybe now you can do a deal with the Arab states without involving the Palestinians. Well, I've spoken with the Palestinians, I've spoken with the Arab leaders, and they're all telling me you're not going to be able to do a deal without involving the Palestinians.
We can work some things with the Arab world. We'll deal with the Palestinians. No, and no.
Oops. October 23, Vox.com headline, the U.S. just brokered another deal for Israel, this time with Sudan, without involving the Palestinians.
There will be no separate peace between Israel and the Arab world. I want to make that very clear to all of you. I've heard several prominent politicians in Israel sometimes saying, well, the Arab world's in a different place now. We just have to reach out to them, and we can work some things with the Arab world, and we'll deal with the Palestinians. No, 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 and no. I can tell you that, reaffirmed even in the last week as I have talked to leaders of the Arab community.
And I've talked to the leaders of the Arab community, and they've told me, hell no, I'm not going to do a damn deal with Israel without involving the Palestinians.
There will be no advance and separate peace with the Arab world without the Palestinian process and Palestinian peace.
Without the Palestinian process. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's a statement issued by the United States, the Republic of Sudan, and the State of Israel. May I quote part of it? Thank you. The leaders agreed to the normalization of relations between Sudan and Israel and to end the state of belligerence between their nations. They were at war. This is not just a normalization. This is a peace deal. It continues. In addition, the leaders agreed to begin economic and trade relations with an initial focus on agriculture. The leaders also agreed the delegations will meet in the coming weeks to negotiate agreements of cooperation in those areas, as well as in agricultural technology, aviation, migration issues, and other areas for the benefit of the two peoples. It also says the move will improve regional security and unlock new opportunities for the people of Sudan, Israel, the Middle East, and Africa. The historic agreement is a testament to the bold and visionary approach of the four leaders, referring to the Prime Minister of Israel, the head of Sudan, Prime Minister, Sudan. John Kerry was apparently unavailable for comment. Firefighters, Philadelphia, in of course a very important swing state, are voting to endorse President Trump. The American Arbitration Association sent ballots to the members of the International Association of Firefighters, Local 22. And they're voting to endorse President Donald Trump. Also, the National Association of Police Organization, representing more than 250,000 officers, endorsed Trump in July. Fraternal Order of Police, estimated 335,000, endorsed Trump in September. The National Association of Police Organization, that's the one with over 250,000, also endorsed President Trump. These unions normally have endorsed Democrats. I guess the idea of the systemic racism BS, maybe that tore it. Don't forget, one of the other things that will happen in the event that the Biden-Harris administration gets elected is that the Kamala Harris has said she wants a commission to investigate reparations. So $15 minimum wage, corporate taxes going up, new Green Deal, a bunch of lefties on the Supreme Court, national rent control, college free tuition, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, one-day sale only. Wouldn't you rather just work with a company who puts you on a pedestal every day? Well, that's what you get with Pure Talk. This is a vet-run wireless company who understands what it means to serve. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. If you're with them, you're overpaying. Pure and simple. Pure Talk can easily save you over $400 a year. Listen, this is all you need. Unlimited talk, text, and 2 gigs of data for nearly $20 a month. And if you go over data usage, they do not charge you for it. That is why Pure Talk is my wireless provider. Make them your wireless provider as well. Switching to Pure Talk is going to be the easiest call you're going to make today. You can keep your phone and your phone number or get great deals on the latest iPhones and Androids. Get your mobile phone, dial pound 250. Say Larry Elder. When you do, save 50% off your first month. Dial pound 250 and save keyword Larry Elder. Pound 250, keyword Larry Elder. Simply smarter wireless.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
For all intents and purposes, this is no longer John Roberts' court. John Roberts is a metropolitan liberal. He is at best, Rockefeller Republican who goes the way the ruling class tells him to go, appointed by George W. Bush. He believes that church is not essential. He believes that deadlines for ballots in Pennsylvania are irrelevant. John Roberts upheld Obamacare. John Roberts, who was supposed to be a constitutional conservative, has really turned his back on all of us that love the Constitution and love our country. And then a billionaire from New York came down the escalator and exposed the fraud that is the American political system. That both parties for 40 years have been saying one thing and doing another, declaring endless misadventures overseas, keeping us in these perpetual conflicts, negotiating bad trade deals, keeping our borders wide open. And President Trump, albeit an unconventional candidate, an unconventional vessel, came onto the scene and he made a list. He made a list of Supreme Court nominees that he would put on the Supreme Court if vacancies would arise. And of course, Scalia's seat was open by the time he became president, filled it with Gorsuch. Anthony Kennedy stepped down in the summer of 2018, filled it with Kavanaugh. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg unexpectedly died about a month ago. And now that seat is filled with Amy Coney Barrett. 3 justices in one term. Only Ronald Reagan can compete with that. Poor Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter got 0 justices.
Keep up.
Larry Elder, I am sure damn proud that you are a Trump fan. I am too. My name is Tommy. You just have you a great day, sir.
You got it. You got it. You got it, Tommy. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. Next hour, we will be speaking Project Veritas. They put out a lot of tapes exposing electioneer fraud, manipulation, mail-in ballot fraud. And he has been accused of lying or deceit by the New York Times. And as a result, James O'Keefe, the founder of Project Veritas, is suing the New York Times for defamation. We'll be talking about that next hour. Lynn is in the Bay Area in California. Lynn, thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I'm not doing too great here in the Bay Area. I'm isolated. Nobody is talking to me because I'm voting for Trump. And I think I called you a couple of months ago, well, about a month and a half.
I remember the call. I remember the call.
Yeah, so it's really bad. My son's saying if I was not his mother, he would never speak to me again.
Wow.
And my stepmother, they all have the same view. That's the whole crazy thing about this. They all say Trump is a racist. He's this. All I hear is negative. Mm-hmm. See, I was brought up and they acting like they wasn't raised by the same people, that you don't just go along with the crowd. You have to be independent thinking, to think for yourself, think it out, and I'm not seeing that. I don't care from 8 to 80. These people in the Bay Area are crazy. I was going to wear red, tomorrow, but I'm not, because they throwing eggs and doing paintballs on people.
And Lynn, what about all the racist things that Joe Biden has said? If you don't support me, you ain't really black.
I can't even tell. They won't hear anything. That's what I'm saying. They hanging up on
Republicans want to put y'all back in chains. Obama is the first clean, articulate African American man. It's a storybook. You can't go into a 7-Eleven without an Indian accent. I don't want my kids being raised in a racial jungle, which is why he opposed court-ordered busing. He passed he was a sponsor of the crime bill that put all these people behind bars for nonviolent drug offenses. Many of them were black. I mean, honestly.
Well, I'm going to just tell you the truth. It's a lot of ignorant people here. They don't even want to hear it. They don't care about that. They just going along. It's like robots.
Well, Lynn, I did a video on YouTube. It's got so far now 2.4 million views. 2.4 million views. Almost 2.5 million views. All about what Donald Trump has done for the black community. I suggest you send it to your relatives. You can't make them watch it, but it's only about 16 minutes long. Who knows? Maybe they'll sneak and take a look at it. That's about 2 million, isn't it? According to Lil Wayne. Thanks, Lynn. Love you. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
The amount of time we took from nomination to confirmation was well within the norm. If you look back over American history, as you know, the typical time from nomination to confirmation. I'm glad that we were able to do it. I'm glad we were able to do it before the election so the American people could weigh the consequences of handing the Senate over to the hard left, which is what the Democratic Party is these days.
You had to act fast after Justice Scalia died unexpectedly, and you had to act fast after Justice Ginsburg died unexpectedly. Did you have any doubt at either of those points that you were doing the right thing?
Not at all. I mean, let's go back to 2016, which the Democrats conveniently leave out what I said, which was that when you have divided government, you have to go back to 1888 to find the last time a Senate of a different party of the president filled a vacancy on the Supreme Court created in a presidential election year. They also ignored that Joe Biden, currently the Democratic nominee for President of the United States, was chairman of the Judiciary Committee in 1992, a time of divided government. And so he gratuitously announced that should there be a vacancy, they would not fill it. That was George H.W. Bush running for re-election. And then 18 months, before the end of Bush 43's 8 years, Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid announced that if a vacancy occurred, they wouldn't fill it. So, look, if the shoe had been on the other foot, I'm pretty confident that they would have acted in the same way.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
The dirty tricks they're using in South Carolina and what this has to say about Jamie Harrison, the Democrat candidate for Senate who's challenging Lindsey Graham. This race has kind of turned into a national referendum in a way of Democrat dirty tricks versus the Republican Party. It's a little bit like the Ted Cruz Beto O'Rourke battle was in 2018. Over at Red State, they write, not a day goes by where there isn't a fawning puff piece on how Harrison has managed to make a race competitive. You want to know how they're trying to win in South Carolina and beat Lindsey Graham? They're not trying to advance the message of this liberal Democrat Jamie Harrison. They're pretending that a guy named Bill Bledsoe, who dropped out a month ago, he was earlier in the year challenging Lindsey, he dropped out and voted for Lindsey Graham. He's a complete Lindsey Graham supporters. But get this, because Bledsoe missed the deadline to be removed from the ballot prior to withdrawing, his name is still on the ballot. And so the pro-Jamie Harrison side, including the Never Trumpers and all those scoundrels who hate Trump and are trying every way they can to lift up Democrats, they're lying to the voters of South Carolina by saturating the airwaves with ads that suggest that Bill Bledsoe is a viable alternative to Lindsey Graham.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
The president brought up the laptop and China. He made a couple of clear points. The moderator, who was generally very good, stepped on his punchlines, she muddied up those moments. And that to me was a pity.
Yes, and I completely agree with you that, Kristen Welker, who is the moderator, did a much better job in terms of allowing the discourse back and forth. I thought she was a lot more fair than Chris Wallace. Absolutely. But the one complaint that I had with her is the exact same thing that you pointed out, Eric, was that she did not want this laptop story to be discussed back and forth. And so every time that the president made a very clear point and was asking Joe Biden a question, she would say, oh, that's on topic. I want to stay on the race issue, or I want to stay on climate change, or, we're not talking about that right now. And she would cut in and interrupt. And I think there was some statistic where she interrupted the president about 41 times and Joe Biden only 8 times. And granted, she allowed the back and forth, the 2-minute openings where their mics were muted. That was fine. But it was very clear that she did not want any discourse about this laptop, which is so unfortunate because the American people need to understand what's going on here. I thought the president explained it incredibly well. And to have a moderator interject themselves like that is activism, and it's absolutely inappropriate. And that's something that just clearly evidences that the mainstream media has a biased agenda and that they are trying to protect Joe Biden from this story. So you have to ask yourself, why?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with 2 starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once says an old joke, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Answer, practice.
Yes, I've used.
Triple 8-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. In a few minutes, we'll be speaking with Project Veritas' James O'Keefe. He has filed a lawsuit against the New York Times.
We are not going to forget the transgressions against us. Today, Project Veritas is suing the New York Times in New York Supreme Court, and we will win. Several weeks ago, the New York Times published 2 articles saying our Minnesota ballot harvesting investigation was, quote, deceptive. The New York Times made this false claim saying our story relied solely on unidentified sources and showed no evidence of ballot harvesting. This is absolute hogwash, dishonest, and libelous. The central focus of our story was this man, Liban Muhammad, who filmed himself bragging about illegally harvesting hundreds of ballots, not unidentified by any stretch of the imagination. And the primary named on-the-record source for this investigation was a man named Omar Jamal, a well-known Somali-American community leader in Minneapolis. But here's the absolute crazy irony in all of this. The New York Times itself has published at least 10 articles quoting Jamal on matters relating to the Somali community. So the lack of honesty and hypocrisy by the New York Times would be laughable if it weren't so defamatory. Our legal team demanded a retraction. In our letter, dated September 30, we made clear our concerns and plans.
The reality is, your articles are so misinformed and libelous, and were published with a clear intent to harm. Accordingly, the only appropriate response is a wholesale retraction of the articles. Please understand that if the articles are not retracted by close of business, Friday, October 2nd, 2020, we will sue.
The Times responded several days later, declining our request. But incredibly, the Times still refused to issue a retraction. So today, Project Veritas, represented by the premier law firm Claire Locke, who has beaten the New York Times before, is suing the New York Times and the reporter Maggie Astor. As they say, you can run, but you cannot hide. New York Times, you defamed us. We are suing you. We will depose you. We will expose you. And we will win. As you recall, Project Veritas has never lost a lawsuit in our corporate history. And to those of you so-called journalists who repeated the Times reporting, USA Today, local TV news, Facebook.com, don't worry, you're next. Retract it now and save yourself the trouble and the embarrassment.
Now, this is a Project Veritas video. This is a Texas ballot chaser. Her last name is Rodriguez, bragging that she got 55 grand to flip 5,000 votes for Biden illegally.
These Republicans want to help Biden too?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm getting paid to do. My people are undercover because some of them are Republicans, some of them are Democrats. So some of my Republicans are precinct chairs that cannot be known because they could get kicked out, but they want to help the Biden.
For the entire team that I'm looking at $55,000.
So $55,000 for 5,000 votes stop the ticket, eager Biden.
That's right. Cash. So I have a state rep. I have a senator right now. I'm talking to my pocket. State rep, senator, commissioner, judges. I respect you. You're going to owe me. Okay? Just remember what I'm doing.
And she's okay with that.
Yeah, who is it?
Got Pete in the pocket.
Like model right now. So he was paying me $5,000 a month, and now he's paying me $8,000 a month.
So you don't have to pay you $700 cash just to take care of that.
You take care of it. Everybody else would have paid me $3,000. She didn't have it. She just got screwed.
Right. Instead of $3,000, you got $700.
So what does she owe me? Favors. She do. Produce.
So it's not bad to have a chief judge?
I've got 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans. You're talking between $5 to $8 per vote. I'm just letting you know, so you have an idea. And I'm going to bring $3,500 to the plate.
Okay.
Countywide. So I know what I'm bringing to the plate countywide. So that's like $28,000.
So those 3 judges that I'm talking about, and that's Renee Yonta, Nicole Garza, right? They're paying me $3,500, to make sure that their name is on the ballot.
So roughly for the city council race for 21, we're looking...
He's going to get 5 and I'm going to get 7. So 56, hold on. Plus, that's 14. And that's 10. That's like 71,000.
71,000. And how do you want it?
Cash.
And of course, these kinds of things are being ignored on CNN, on MSNBC. Hee-haw. Speaking of CNN, last week, Trump campaign spokesman, sharp guy Tim Murtaugh, and Cuomo went at it over Cuomo's accusations about how Donald Trump has poorly managed the coronavirus while giving a pass to his own brother who put COVID-19 patients in nursing homes. Not firing. That's Tuesday's audio. Can you check that when you get a chance? I went on TMZ, and I thought they were going to talk about my being appointed on the commission to study the social status of black men and boys. Instead, it turned into, how dare Donald Trump not acknowledge the existence of systemic racism?
Donald Trump is touting that he feels he
That's Harvey Levin of TMZ.
has been better for African Americans than anybody except possibly Abraham Lincoln.
Possibly.
And he's trying to paint a fairly rosy picture of what it's like for black people in America under his tutelage. So how do you square the two?
This man is doing something about the economy before the coronavirus pandemic, historically low unemployment. The man has signed the First Step Act, which allowed something like 5,000 mostly black men to have their sentences reconsidered and reduced an average of about 75 months. He's also spent more money on enterprise zones. He's put funding on HBCUs for the first time over a period of 10 years. No one's ever done that before.
The president is also saying that there is no systemic racism in America. There is no systemic racism in policing. And
There isn't.
Okay. All right.
There is no evidence of systemic racism whatsoever. In fact, the evidence shows the opposite. I was just about ready to say there's a black Harvard professor named Roland Fryer who assumed, just as you did, that the police were killing blacks just because they were black. He did a study. Not only did he not find it, he found out, which tracked other studies, the police are more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger on a black suspect than on a white suspect. And it's common sense because of people like people in the media who immediately assume that a cop is doing something racist or motivated because the victim is black. They're afraid to shoot a black person much greater than they are afraid to shoot a white person.
Larry, you're from Los Angeles, and you know what happened with the Rampart Division. It was an incredible scandal where they were going into the inner city and they were setting people up and planting drugs and doing all this stuff. I mean, this has been going on for a long time.
Harvey, 20 years ago. From 1992 to 2002, Los Angeles had back-to-back black police chiefs, even during the O.J. Simpson case. And what happened?
But that doesn't mean you're confused, Larry. You can't look at a black police chief and say, therefore, there isn't systemic racism.
Right. We had a black president. Is there no racism in America then, Larry? I mean, come on.
Wait a minute, first you said systemic racism. Now you're saying racism. Which one do you want?
No, I'm saying I'm sticking with systemic.
There's no evidence whatsoever of systemic racism. I ask you to prove it.
A cop watching somebody run away, a black man run away, shooting him and killing him. A guy walking into a convenience store, shooting him and killing him. Larry, we've seen this.
Okay, here's the thing, Larry. I hear what you're saying about the studies.
Harvey, let me try it this way. There are 50 million police-civilian interactions every single year. Out of that 50 million, there are 11 million arrests. Out of that 11 million arrests, 60,000 officers are assaulted. Out of all of that, 1,000 civilians are killed. Half of them are white, 250 of them were black. Almost all of them were resisting with a weapon or resisting violently. When you get down to unarmed black men being shot by white cops, you're talking about less than 4% of the total. And unarmed does not mean not dangerous. Michael Brown was unarmed, but he was reasonably perceived as dangerous. It is rare, Harvey. You guys are exaggerating this. When a white person gets killed by a cop, nobody gives a damn. When a black person gets killed by a cop, people are out in the streets. And in Philadelphia, you're talking about a city where the captain of the city council is black. Almost every single member of city council is a Democrat. They've had black mayors. The police chief is a black female, and you're still talking about systemic racism.
Well, he then said, Larry, you're using statistics. I'm using humanity. What? James O'Keefe up next. I'm Larry Elder. Do not leave town.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Philadelphia, the fatal police shooting of 27-year-old Walter Wallace from City Journal in West Philadelphia has set off another round of mass looting, arson, and violence. Wallace, who had a long criminal history and evident mental problems, was confronted by two police officers who ordered him repeatedly to put down the knife that he was wielding. Wallace refused to drop the knife, charged the officers, and was shot multiple times. The shooting sparked looting and vandalism in and around West Philadelphia's 52nd Street corridor, where the 18th District Police District is located. Incidentally, I have very vivid memories of arriving to give a speech in Philadelphia on the night of the Philadelphia Phillies winning the World Series. And we could not travel directly to our hotel in downtown Philadelphia because of all the rioting that was taking place. So Philadelphia has a tradition of riots that are caused by all sorts of things. And the primary source has nothing to do with events. Events are excuses to riot. The people who riot are bored, aimless, and they have no conscience that you and I can relate to. They probably have no father. They certainly have no 10 Commandments. Just thought I'd throw that out.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Mayor Giuliani, when they say they are investigating one man and his business associates, what does that mean? Who is in the net? And could it be the Democrat candidate for the highest office in the land, Joe Biden?
It has to be, because the money laundering was being done for his benefit. And if you listen to his son's description of it on the hard drive, which no one has disputed, he makes it clear that Pop gets half of that. Pop, according to a text message of January 3rd, 2019, for 30 years, he's been taking care of all the expenses of the family. That's Hunter. And Pop requires him to kick half of the money to him. So every one of these deals is for the benefit of Joe Biden. And best evidence of that is, how did Joe, on the salary of a senator, acquire 5 houses and live like a multimillionaire while he was in the Senate? He didn't become rich after. He became rich while he was in the Senate. Well, he became rich because he was using his son, his brother, his sister-in-law, and his other brother as bagmen.
In that case, the question is very easy. You have dealt with organized crime. You have dealt with terrorism. You have put people behind bars because they are a threat to the national security and safety of all Americans.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
For all intents and purposes, this is no longer John Roberts' court. John Roberts is a metropolitan liberal. He is a, at best, Rockefeller Republican who goes the way the ruling class tells him to go, appointed by George W. Bush. He believes that church is not essential. He believes...
Hi, Larry, long-time listener. I just want to know, when is the IRS going to get involved in this Biden money scandal thing? The IRS will get involved eventually if it's done right. But that's a big question. Follow the money. Thanks, Larry.
888-971-7243, 888-971-SAGE. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. And my next guest is an award-winning journalist and writer. The list of victims, pretty impressive. His investigation led into Acorn's collapse, caused the Planned Parenthood VP to be fired, released a video at the Cannes Film Festival showing Hollywood environmentalists agreeing to take money from phony Middle East oil tycoons to fund an anti-oil movie, dressed up as Osama bin Laden. He crossed the Rio Grande from Mexico into the United States without much problem. His newest book, American Pravda, My Fight for Truth in the Era of Fake News. Graduated from Rutgers University. Please welcome back to the program the founder and president of Project Veritas, James O'Keefe. James, thank you so very much for taking the time.
Hey, Larry, great to be with you.
James, before we talk about your lawsuit, what do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
It's so hard to predict. I think polls are all fake nonsense. So I think anybody who tells you they know exactly what's going to happen probably doesn't know what they're talking about. I think there's going to be some fraud. There's going to be mail-in ballot harvesting, and there's going to be a lot of irregularities. So if you're an insider, Veritas tips at protonmail.com. We're looking for people to wear cameras tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. James, I played the Veritas video you did of the ballot chaser, the woman from Texas. I think her last name was Rodriguez. Just now played that. A lot of that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, this is in Texas where she was paying for votes. You could clearly see her coercing an older person for their vote, giving them gifts, giving them bribes, giving them in order to change the vote from John Cornyn, a Republican, to MJ Hagar, a Democrat. So this happens across the country. The problem is our media and our government doesn't want to do anything about it because of the accusations that we're disenfranchising voters by exposing voter irregularities. So if this is a tight race, there's going to be fraud, there's going to be ballot harvesting, illegal ballot tampering. So it's just important for a citizen army to expose it.
I'm talking to the president and founder of Project Veritas, James O'Keefe. Okay, James, your lawsuit is over your videos having to do with Minneapolis ballot harvesting. Tell us about that.
Well, the lawsuit against the New York Times for defamation, we've sued the New York Times for defamation. They said that our videos were, quote, deceptive. They were based on, quote, solely unidentified sources, which is all hogwash. Mm-hmm. They said that there's no verifiable evidence. So they said all these things about what we do, and it was all lies, Larry. None of it was true. And they relied upon Stanford University and Harvard University researchers that said that we are a coordinated disinformation campaign. So the New York Times was projecting onto Project Veritas what they're doing, which they're the ones engaged in disinformation. And you expose these truths on videotape. You see a man in the car harvesting ballots. You see his face. You hear his voice. The New York Times doesn't publish any documents in their Trump tax return story. They don't show you any of their sources. They're all anonymous. So they accuse us of doing the things that they do all the time themselves. So we said enough is enough. We filed a lawsuit in New York Supreme Court, defamation lawsuit, and we're pretty confident that we will win this lawsuit, Larry.
James, maybe I'm not following this, but in your videos, you've got a guy who identifies himself, and how is that an unidentified source when the guy's identifying himself?
It's almost Orwellian out of 1984. But for them to say that it's unidentified, I mean, it's irrational. It's an irrationality because you see the man's face, you hear his voice. So perhaps they're referring to the fact that we've blurred to some of these people's faces, but even then, you hear their voices. At least you see bodies. We don't make claims without firsthand, access to hearing their voices. But the New York Times doesn't show you any voices. It's all anonymously sourced stuff. So it's just one of those things where I said enough is enough. We filed the lawsuit. I think people need to fight back against this crooked media that we have. People don't have the will to fight back, nor the money, nor the inclination. But at Project Veritas, we have that inclination. Somebody has to do it. And we'll get past the motion to dismiss, and hopefully they retract the whole article, which is what they should do.
James O'Keefe is my guest, president of Project Veritas. James, I would think even people on the left would be concerned about what happened with the New York Post story. As you know, bombshell story linking Hunter to Joe. Joe apparently knew a whole lot more about what his son was doing than was let on. And Twitter, Facebook, Google all suppressed that story.
Well, I mean, this is the story of our time. These may or may not be economic monopolies according to the Justice Department, but they have a monopoly on ideas. That's probably more important because it really can change the way we perceive our world. But the good news is, yes, Twitter suppressed the New York Post story, and yes, it was blatantly obvious. But I think people are hungry for real information, sort of the work that Veritas does with our visuals that go on Twitter. And it's hard to suppress information that people want to see and hear. And in this digital age, there are some stories that are so profoundly important and real that Twitter finds it difficult to suppress them. And I just think we have to there's nothing we can do except do quality journalism that is undeniable and just keep pressing forward. That's what we have to do, Larry. We just have to keep doing the journalism.
James, I find it interesting that sometimes you'll post something, it'll have a huge effect. Obviously, it did regarding Acorn. You essentially made Acorn completely fall apart. On the other hand, you posted to me equally compelling videos showing the bias inside CNN. You've got insiders literally saying Jeff Zucker, the CEO, is effing telling us what to say, and it doesn't seem to have changed anything.
Well, I mean, it depends upon this Texas story. The Attorney General is investigating. When we say it doesn't change things, I think our country's changed in 10 years. I think our country's so divided. Our Congress is divided. No laws can be passed. I think we're living in this very, polarized world where people don't agree on the facts. But investigative reporting, I think, is the propagandist's natural enemy because it's the fiercest of indignation fused with the hardest of fact. And the fact you have these people on the tape in Texas quite literally bragging about breaking the law and bribing voters, I think that is impactful. And I think the point is, if that is not impactful, then we've reached the point of no return and there's going to be perhaps a violent civil war in this country. But I believe that the way we can step back from that precipice is by actually doing the quality journalism, but the citizens have to do it. It's not, you don't rely upon CNN. You need to do it yourself. Veritas tips at protonmail.com. Tomorrow, wear a camera, contact me.
James O'Keefe is my guest. We only have about a minute left. James, I meant when I said didn't have any impact, I just was talking about CNN. You've had an impact on lots of things, on Planned Parenthood, on Acorn, on lots of investigations that you've launched. I'm talking about the culture at CNN. Those exposés doesn't seem to have done much good to change Jeff Zucker from being...
People believe what they see on TV, and in the Soviet Union, they knew it was all Pravda, which was fake news, but in this country, people really do believe it when they read it.
I have to leave it there. James O'Keefe, Project Veritas. James, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once has an old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Answer, practice.
Yes, I've used a similar example. I like rock and roll. And the guitarist from Led Zeppelin, a guy by the name of Jimmy Page, he was a studio musician for years, and he just played one exact note for note what he was told to play, and he played all the time in that mode. And by the time he got into the rock and roll band Led Zeppelin, he had complete freedom to make that guitar sound how he wanted it to sound because he had the discipline.
Exactly. It's exactly the same as mine, just different form of music. That's exactly right. All right, my friend, we're going to do an hour together. I'm so crazy about the book. I just wanted to, in this very urgent time, take time out to tell people about it. Discipline equals freedom. Jocko, we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it.
You, my friend, to say the least, have earned it. Thank you.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Let me ask you about the Senate. Recently, you said you were feeling that it was a 50-50 call whether you would retain the majority. I think it is dangerous to lose the majority. I am really praying for Susan Collins in Maine and Joni Ernst in Iowa and Martha McSally in Arizona. And yeah, I mean, those are three great different people, but then you got these businessmen, David Perdue in Georgia and Tom Tillis in North Carolina. They're very different people. We need John James in Michigan. We need Jason Lewis in Minnesota. Are you feeling better about the 50-50% that you gave 10 days ago?
Well, actually, I've been saying 50-50 all year. And the reason for that, Hugh, is because we have so many members up. We have 23 members up. They only have 12. The reason for that is this is the class that took the majority back in 2014. We elected a lot of new Republican senators in 2014, and so now we have a lot of exposure. So I've actually been saying 50-50 for well over a year. We've got a whole lot of close.
America, we have a country to save. And now, here's Larry Elder.
Hey, Larry, I wonder if it's been ruled out that the COVID virus was enhanced either A, to embarrass the Trump administration, or B, was it a military attack? Those are the 2 points that I don't think have been explored enough, or if they were, I don't know. What is your opinion? Either to embarrass the Trump administration or a military attack? Thank you.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. I think that one of the reasons that Donald Trump resisted recognizing the gravity of the coronavirus was because of his assumption, and well-founded assumption that the media was going to use that to try to trash his administration. And remember Ron Klain. Ron Klain is the aide to Joe Biden when Joe Biden was in the White House as VP. He's still an aide to Joe Biden. He says, "Look, we had to deal with the H1N1 flu. Smart people did everything wrong. The fact that we were able to avoid disaster is surely a matter of pure luck." End of quote. And of course, during the debate, the administration argues that we left you a detailed plan on how to deal with a pandemic, and they didn't follow it, except Ron Klain says we followed it and did everything wrong. Is this thing on? Now, have you gotten your new mattress topper yet? Truly amazing. 10-year warranty and a cover you can wash and dry. Made right here in the country. Back with Mike Lindell's 60-day money-back guarantee. MyPillow.com. Save 30% if you use promo code Larry or call 800-890-1843. When you do, Mike gives you 2 standard MyPillows for free. Go to MyPillow.com. Use promo code Larry or call 800-890-1843. That's 800-890-1843. I was talking about the exchange I had with Harvey Levin of TMZ and his partner Charles, both of whom argued that there was systemic racism in America and Donald Trump is a bad guy for not acknowledging it. And I was trying to lay some facts on him.
It's ridiculous. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, really. You're making the country worse.
We actually,
Larry,
I'm going to be very clear about something. Hold on, Charles.
It was a Zoom call, so everybody's talking over each other right now.
I sleep just fine. I am not ashamed of myself. And maybe you do too, and that's fine. So we're going to disagree on this. Maybe you should be. Maybe you should be, Larry. Because there is a problem. There is a problem in this country, and you are relying on statistics. And you are not looking at humanity, Larry.
It's called facts. It's called.
You are relying on statistics and not looking at humanity, Larry, honestly. What do you say to somebody when you give them studies, detailed studies, federal studies, state studies, college studies, none of which can corroborate the notion of systemic racism on the part of the police, and the response is, you are using statistics, not using humanity?
The facts are on my side.
There is a problem in this country, and you are relying on statistics. And you are not looking at humanity, Larry.
It's called facts. It's called evidence.
Well, I gave you open your eyes, Larry. There's evidence. There's visual evidence every day. Open your eyes if you're not seeing it.
1997, Time Magazine, CNN asked black teens and white teens about racism. Is racism a major problem? This is 23 years ago. Is racism a major problem in America? They said yes. But then the black teens were asked this. Is racism a big problem, a small problem, or no problem in your own daily life? 89% said no problem or a small problem in my own daily life. In fact, more black teens and white teens said failure.
But Larry, what did you say that study was? Hold on, Larry. You said that study was in 1997?
Yeah, before Barack Obama got elected and reelected. So I would think that whatever racism is
1997. We're in 2020. You want to bring up a study that was done 23 years ago?
The relevance of it is, wouldn't you think that America was more racist in 1997 than now? Even then, black kids.
No, actually, I think it's more racist now than it was in 97. Because I think people are.
You guys are so intent on improving the country?
Larry, let me actually. Hold on. Larry, I want to say
so intent on improving a country that has been so
Larry, please. Larry, please. I'm going to tell you why I think it's more racist, and then I want to give you the final word. Okay.
Thank you.
I think it's more racist because of Donald Trump, because of the things he says, and he has given permission. Let me just make my point. You get the final word. He has given people permission to be racist. He has given people permission to be violent. He has talked about liberating states. He has talked about white supremacist groups standing by. He is deliberately not using the proper pronunciation of Kamala Harris's name. He is doing a lot of stuff that sounds racist, that is giving people permission. And that's why I think we're seeing this influx of racism, which I believe is worse than in 1997. You have the last word.
Wow. The high point of race relations for both whites and blacks took place during the administration of George W. Bush. It dramatically catered during the second term of Barack Obama when he was saying things like the Cambridge police acted stupidly. We have a little place called Ferguson. When he was touting Black Lives Matter, that's when race relations really declined. There is a city in Texas called Abilene, which is the city of 100,000 population or more that most voted for Donald Trump, almost 80%. Guess which city just voted for a black mayor? Its first black mayor, Abilene, Texas. Now, how is it if Donald Trump is sending a racist dog whistle to voters, the same racist dog whistle turned around and voted for a black man for mayor? It's BS. Donald Trump has done a great deal for black people, most especially the economy. Secondly, supporting choice in school. Thirdly, doing something about the competition posed by illegal aliens. That's good enough for me. The rest of it to me is just white noise, pardon the expression.
Well, we ended it on a laugh. The doctors who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, 100% drug-free ingredients, each of which attack pain from a different metabolic pathway. So if you're suffering from back pain, shoulder, hip, neck, foot pain from exercise, or just everyday living, order the 3-week quick start. Discount is only $19.95. ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384, only $19.99, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
But what came out with Joe Biden recently, and it's going to keep coming out, I've never seen anything like it. And the fact that the media is not covering it, it is completely mind-bending to me. That I think some people are scared to death of what's going to come out, and they will do anything, including sell their souls practically, to cover up.
This is what's so incredible about our media. I mean, when you look at communist China, for example, and the propaganda that they push, and the fact that, you know, the signal went down during the presidential debate when President Trump was talking about China, right? I mean, you know, you look at how they are on purpose manipulating the media to only allow access from their citizens to whatever they want their citizens to know. I mean, that's indoctrination. It's propaganda, and it's absolutely unacceptable in a society that values truth and fact. And so what our media is telling us, and what the leftists are saying, is that they are more concerned about having a narrative for you to believe than they are about actually telling fact and truth. Because remember, we are in a post-truth society. We are in a society that believes in my truth versus your truth, and that truth is just perspective. And so their perspective is that Joe Biden is the best candidate because he will allow their purposes to go through in government. He will manipulate the U.S. government system to their advantage. And so they don't care about reporting fact and truth. They're not journalists anymore. They're activists.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
Philadelphia, the fatal police shooting of 27-year-old Walter Wallace from City Journal in West Philadelphia has set off another round of mass looting, arson, and violence. Wallace, who had a long criminal history and evident mental problems, was confronted by two police officers who ordered him repeatedly to put down the knife that he was wielding. Wallace refused to drop the knife, charged the officers, and was shot multiple times. The shooting sparked looting and vandalism in and around West Philadelphia's 52nd Street corridor, where the 18th District Police District is located. Incidentally, I have very vivid memories of arriving to give a speech in Philadelphia on the night of the Philadelphia Phillies winning the World Series. And we could not travel directly to our hotel in downtown Philadelphia because of all the rioting that was taking place. So,
you one ignorant, stupid them big flapping lips of yours remind me of Charlotte, you stupid. I have never seen a mother as you. You Trump licking mother you. What a disgrace you are. You ignorant mother. Lou Dobbs, you lick his hole. You a dirty, nasty, stinking, big lip mother.
Another swing voter. 888-971 SAGE 888-971-7243. Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. I want to talk to you about a new book by Bishop Aubrey Shines, founder of Conservative Clergy of Color. 8 questions about race. Maybe we ought to send this gentleman a free copy. 8 questions about race arms conservatives with rebuttals to Black Lives Matter. Are all white people racist? Is the justice system unfair to black people? The book is a must-read for anybody who cares about the country, churches, and children. To get your copy, go to 8questionsaboutace.com, and while you're there, be sure and buy copies for your friends, for your family, and for your fellow churchgoers. That's 8questionsaboutace.com, 8questionsaboutace.com. Tom Sowell was asked what he thinks will happen with the country in the event that Joe Biden wins. Here's what he said.
What I see is that if the election goes to Biden, that there's a good chance that the Democrats will then control all the 2 branches of Congress and the White House. And considering the kinds of things that they're proposing, that could well be the point of no return for this country.
By the way, even Biden campaign spokesperson is not denying that Joe Biden did meet with a Hunter Biden associate. It could have happened. I'm not saying it couldn't have happened.
There were more accusations made this week on that most watched Fox News interview a couple nights ago from Tucker Carlson. Did those meetings happen as they have been alleged when Joe Biden was a private citizen?
We're not going to waste any time on this smear campaign because it's just another distraction to distract, again, away from 4 years of Donald Trump.
There were more accusations made this week.
So we're not going to waste our time on this since, after all, the New York Post story has been suppressed by our friends in the big tech side. So we're good. Candace Owens slammed Cardi B. Cardi B complained about taxes, and then Joe Biden allowed her to give him a very hard-hitting interview, and so Candace Owens criticized the interview, Cardi B criticized Candace Owens, and shortly after the exchange, Cardi B lost tens of thousands of Twitter followers, and Candace Owens gained tens of thousands of Twitter followers.
Has anybody else realized that Cardi B has become the Jussie Smollett of the hip-hop world? She literally just makes up being attacked by Trump supporters like every other week.
How many years? I'm scared. Nah, we're going to get jumped. I really feel like we're going to get jumped. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Look at all these Trump flags. Look at all these Trump flags in Beverly Hills. Offset's so scared right now. My sister was walking on the beach and Trump supporters just attacked her for being a lesbian. They just followed her and attacked her for no reason other than she's a lesbian.
Trump supporters are everywhere. I'm scared. I don't like it with their big truck.
I know I make all these songs about how gangster I am, but when I see a flag that says Trump 2020, I get scared.
I don't like this. Look at this. Look at this. Look how they walking around with fake guns and covering their face.
I don't know why it keeps happening to me and nobody else. Even though I got all this security and all this money and number one song, I keep getting attacked by all these Trump supporters. I don't know, just me, nobody else.
I don't like this.
We're sure, Cardi Smollett. Why don't you do yourself and the rest of America a favor and sit down and shut up until November 4th? How's that for WAP? Bye.
What a beatdown.
You may hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. The heavyweight champion is taking the mandatory 8 count, and Foreman is as poised as can be.
Even Ice Cube was saying, met with the Republicans, I met with the Democrats. I'm not quite sure what we're getting for all the loyalty that we've shown the Democrats.
Mariah Carey fantasy is a fantasy to believe that you can get this
And he got hammered by comedian D.L. Hughley.
administration to do anything. It's you've seen black person after black person after black person after black person ruin themselves on the altar of Trump with nothing in return, and Ice Cube is the latest one.
Wow. He didn't even meet with him. He met with Republicans. He didn't even meet with Donald Trump. You can't even do that. You're a sellout. You're an Uncle Tom. You're a bootlicker. Speaking of which, notice the segue into Uncle Tom, my movie. Like that? I'm a total professional. Well, I don't think this gentleman would agree, but let's try it again.
One ignorant, stupid them big flapping lips of yours remind me of Charlotte, you stupid. I have never seen a as you. You Trump licking you. What a disgrace you are. You ignorant Lou Dobbs, lick his you a dirty, nasty, stinking, big lip
Dear Larry, thank you for everything you are doing to pull America together, to get the message out, and for bringing people together. Your Uncle Tom movie was powerful, insightful, and moving. As a white, male, conservative, Christian, prior military, and retired law enforcement officer, I'm often viewed as the devil and as an enemy of society. I, and like those and those like me, rarely have a voice in society due to the liberal chaos and the cancel culture that is occurring in America today. It is refreshing to hear your message and the message of Uncle Tom getting out. The people you chose to be in the movie could not have presented the conservative Christian viewpoint better and spread the message more profoundly. Thank you so much for your film, Uncle Tom. I guess he has a somewhat different perspective than the gentleman who called earlier. What's that? You haven't ordered your 3-week quick start yet? From Relief Factor for $19.95? You know, over 70% of the people who ordered the 3-week quick start go on to order more. Peter and Seth Talbot, the father-son owners of Relief Factor, selected 4 all drug-free ingredients, each of which attack pain from a different metabolic pathway. So if you're dealing with neck pain, back pain, shoulder, hip, or knee pain, try the 3-week quick start. Again, over 70% of the people go on to order more. ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-500-8384. That's 800-500-8384. Missy is in Harper's Ferry. Missy, you're on the Larry Elder Show.
Hello, Mr. Elder. How are you?
I'm doing great, Missy. How are you?
Oh, doing well. I wanted to say that the election is about the character of the country and bringing it back to the way that I know that it is. And I'm going to give you some scenarios on whether or not you think you should vote for Biden. And I hope Tony is still listening. Because, Tony, you are everything that you say the country is. You say that the country is racist, but you've accomplished everything that you set out to do. So you ruined your argument. Okay? Number 2, it's everywhere. Where is it? Please show it to me because I want to get behind it.
Missy, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. 888-971-SAGE. Racism is everywhere. Doesn't stop me, but it stops you.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. President Trump has been making his biggest bet that the portion of the American electorate living between the coasts knows what is in its own best interest. He thinks these Americans know that their interest, economic, cultural, familial, diverge sharply from the coastal elites. Trump has taken up the case for folks between the coasts and states at the margin. He's counting especially on voters in Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And turnout is going to be enormous. That turnout issue means that for the first time since I started watching politics closely, a blowout in either direction is genuinely possible. I hope you've made your plans to vote and make sure to remind those in your world to get out and vote. America is at a crossroads with two starkly different visions for the future of the nation we love. Whatever the result, don't regret not doing your part. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I want to give one example of discipline equals freedom. I'm into classical music, as my listeners know. So when I watch a great violinist or great pianist, I think, wow, they have ultimate freedom. They can play that instrument. I can't. So how did they get there? How did they get the freedom to play? And the answer is discipline. The guy once has an old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Answer, practice.
Yes, I've used a similar example. I like rock and roll. And the guitarist from Led Zeppelin, a guy by the name of Jimmy Page,
Hey, Larry Ransford here in L.A. To all of the police departments across the country, if you are ever ordered to stand down while your town's being torn up, defy the order. Your oath is to protect the people and their property. And all the best to this country on Election Day. Take care.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefAction.com studio. My zip poll question, last time we chatted, do you think Hunter Biden did anything illegal in his overseas business deals? 97% of you said yes. Second, do you think Joe Biden did anything illegal in connection with his son Hunter's overseas business deals? 98% of you said yes. I've got two for tonight. President Trump got about 7% of the black vote in 2016. Will Trump at least double that percentage in 2020? Yes or no? Number two, President Trump got 28% of the Latino vote. Will President Trump get close to 40% of the Latino vote in 2020? Either yes or no. In order to participate, you must be a member of the Zip community. Go to your app store, download the Zip app by searching under Zip Poll USA, and you must use my code SAGE, S-A-G-E, in order to participate. Here is a commercial in Spanish urging people to vote for President Trump. Let's hear it.